but just showing people that there's so much more, man. There's so much more of a way to connect to life. There's so much more to life than your 9 to 5. There's spirituality to all of it. And when you take the moment to recognize synchronicities, to know that 222 is a sign, man, you're on the right path. I will straight say it. I've had orbs. What I would consider some sort of an intelligent light source or energy ball or plasma orb or some sort of a sign, you know, show me that we're doing the right thing, for nothing else, or at least that I'm paying attention enough that I'm the one that got to see it. You know, there's all these people in Denver, all these people doing, all these things in just in my neighborhood, and they're not just taking the time in the moment to just enjoy life, to just be in that moment and just sit with yourself, man. And I don't know. That's my long ramble, dude. There's still dirt bikes, all this other stuff I could talk, but dude, start throwing the questions. I'm ready. I'm ready. So dude, like I'll just kind of jump in if you're cool. Like
Yeah.
I can talk about so much different stuff. Like I literally just made some notes because I'm really good at getting off track and going off on the tangents. So I busted out, like, I can talk about everything from like UFOs and spirits. I have hundreds of BMX and moto stories that also kind of incorporate all sorts of different aspects. The near death experience or dying, and then like I was for sure a gate kid. Like I can talk PSI games, the psychic stuff, the Vegas stuff. I mean, I can go anywhere, dude.
Yeah. I want all of it. I want all of it.
And well,
Um,
well, cool, man. I'll just kind of jump in if you're cool.
yeah.
So,
Let's start from the beginning.
dude, exactly. So, dude, I'm just an open book. So I grew up in Broomfield, Colorado. I'm a Colorado native. My parents have always been kind of I'll either say human services or like teaching education. My mom was a teacher. My parents were a therapeutic foster home, so I grew up with foster brothers and sisters, all with either a disability or a mental illness. And that's just kind of was my norm growing up. Like that wasn't anything new or different. Like that was just something that was just part of it. And kind of just getting it, being brought up in a very accepting household. Still rules, still morals, but just very accepting, like, and folks can't, my mom's brother actually had disabilities, so my mom grew up with it as well. And and good or bad, you just kind of learn it's just a different temperament, right? Like when you're constantly around folks that have behavior, you just kind of automatically learn how to have a little bit different temperament than say folks that maybe grow up in more of a typical family, I guess would be the way to put it. Not that any family's typical or normal. We all got our things, right? But I mean, some, with autism, with severe disabilities of any kind, you just get more behaviors, right? Just because there's harder communication, just harder things to get worked out. So just kind of always being around that, kind of always getting the feelings around that, and feeling the emotions that those kids would have and that I would have, my parents would have, and just my parents are amazing, man. And one thing I just want to say up front that I've not really said in any other thing is, like, my parents are amazing. My mom was like I said, a teacher. They're a therapeutic foster home. My dad, once again, I also say human services, and it's just always been this like family of love and acceptance, and like kind of the underdogs, people that didn't really have a home. We were their home, you know what I mean? And that was just always kind of the way we grew up. Like truly, man, people that like didn't have a place, we would like make a place for them at Thanksgiving, even if we knew it was going to create all sorts of drama. We like promote to the people that were at our table, like, dude, we're going to accept them all, because that we're all flesh and blood. We're all doing this for the first time. We're all just expressing what we've had in our past, right? We're products of our past to some degree. That doesn't mean that that's also the dictation of our future, but that just means that we are where we are, right? And the
Yeah.
path that led us here is the path that led us here. And so just kind of that unconditional positive regard, along with, I'm kind of quirky myself. I'm an artist. I have a human services, mental health, and counseling degree from Metro State, specializing in behavioral analysis. I have a behavioral degree, or licensure in the state of Colorado. Tons of stuff with long-term care to county assessments and everything from hospice to what would be like a county's version of like Medicaid services or in-home services, just all these different versions, right? And just always wanted to make sure that I was giving back, right? The biggest thing, once again, that my parents really instilled to me was this, not that you had to spend your life doing stuff for other people, but a life well spent would be in service of others, right? And
Sure.
just helping it so that we're all getting, having a little bit better experience, right?
Yeah.
If we all have a
Yeah.
little bit better experience, the whole experience overall is better, right? So um and that was just really ingrained, and so that's just kind of always stuck. Like I said, human services, mental health, and counseling degree. I also have an art institute degree for industrial design. So I actually went to school to go design body armor, save for like either military applications or for like motorcycle racing applications. Couldn't find a job, had to forbear my student loans, and went back and got my mental health stuff. So just kind of, the way life works out, I've been able to utilize it in other ways. I make props. I worked for one of the theater companies here in Colorado to help do some of their set designs. So it's still cool. I still gonna use it. It's just not, it's just not a whole lot of that kind of stuff. There's Distortions Unlimited, which is really cool. A monster making shop that has like premium stuff, but I keep sending my portfolio, but they haven't taken it yet. But
Yeah, I know. I are you in your shop right now?
yes. So
Yeah.
so I have like
Okay.
two shops. I have a race shop, and then I have like I call it the Rhino Pit or the Muse. Like it's dirt bikes and it's bicycles and it's my
Yeah.
creations and it's things I've bought, and yeah,
Yeah,
dude,
when I
my
was
garage is
watching
nuts.
your episode with Corey, I'm like, this is like Travis Pastrana meets Pee-wee's Playhouse meets
dude, dude,
Industrial
dude,
Light and Magic.
dude, if you took a '90s Applebee's and you put Adam Savage's like tested shop, that's probably like what this is.
Yeah.
I got
Yeah,
flair,
yeah, yeah.
man.
I love it. I love it. It's
Dude, if I
awesome.
ever have to move, it's gonna be like a 2-year process.
It looks like it. But man, like what a foundation to
Yeah,
start
I mean,
life off with.
and I just, I once again, man, my mom passed. So my mom passed to cancer in 2015. Um, we didn't know it was coming, but we knew it was coming. We all had time to talk about it and kind of process it. And her last like 5 years were just full on. So I'm happy we got to do all that kind of stuff with her. And
Yeah, yeah.
uh, my mom was the coolest dude. Like I don't know, like I'm kind of a punk rock dude. So we would race motorcycles in Vegas a bunch, and so I would gamble, and with my precognition, man, it's not every time, but it was 90% of the time we would walk away with just tons of money, and like to the point that like we had like the highest level MGM card where you could go to like Mandalay Bay and Luxor and do all those
Yeah, yeah.
MGM grand ones, and like we had like backstage passes to like Steel Panther, and like my mom
Yes.
really liked seeing the Cirque shows, so like we would go see at that time, New York, I forget what it was, but it had kind of a more scandalous clad one. But she like would love it, and then we would go see like we just go see all the Cirque shows, and like just me and my mom would have these adventures, and we go do the Monster Cup, you know what I mean, which is dirt bike
Yeah, yeah,
racing,
yeah.
and it was
And
just my
how
mom
far
was just always cool.
when was this? Like how
So
far back
like
was that?
probably like 12 through 15, the last little bit, we really just made
Okay.
sure we did everything that we could together. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? So it was just, we did everything, and went on all these trips. But I guess where I'm kind of going with this is, so my mom was always like very spiritual. She was really into like animal guides, and I guess kind of where I'm going with all this, and like spiritual awakenings and things like that, right? So, and the Psi stuff, and I'll kind of try to keep all collecting it as we kind of go along. But uh, so we go to Vegas. I have uncanny precognition to just know what's gonna hit, where it's gonna hit. I can do it here in Colorado. There's a place called Black Hawk in Central City. Same thing. It's just this either knowing or being able to sense. Um, And so, we have all these crazy experiences. Uh, Along with that, there's not really a way to show that you have this crazy precognition other than gambling, right? Like, and really have a result to show somebody. So I still gamble a little bit. I do scratch tickets. I'm like 22 for 22 on scratch tickets. Like that never
No
happens.
way. So you
Yeah,
just
it's
walk up
nuts,
and you're
dude.
like, that one?
But dude, here's the problem. It's never the big one. It's just always enough to be like, yep, you got it. You chose the right moment to do it, but you're gonna get that $2 win instead of that like 20,000 or something. But just enough to like keep it rolling. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you
But
still get the hit. You still get the hit.
exactly. But it also just kind of shows that like it's hitting right. It just eventually maybe. I
Yeah,
hope I
yeah.
can say, dude, I finally won the lottery. I hope that happens. But
Yeah. I wonder if
but
that's a good thing or not, you know?
right? I don't know. It might make me a little bit weirder. I don't know if that's a good thing. I'm already weird enough. But
So what was your biggest night in Vegas?
man, 56,000. Yeah.
All right.
And it was on nothing machines, dude. Nothing machines. Like we did like $700 on like a penny machine in like 3 turns. And like we walked over to this other machine and so I'm like, oh no, we're out of here. This is it. No one else is gonna hit here. You know what I mean? So then we walk over to like what was it? New York, New York. We do just some quarter machine, but it's just this quarter machine that like had always hit when I had raced and done well. So it was like my lucky machine. And so I hit it like 4 grand. 4 grand spins off into like but like the whole thing is too is I'm having to be conscious because like I know I'm having to pay taxes on all this. You know what I mean? Like you can't just be so dumb. Sometimes I'm so dumb. But like I'm just racking up money, and man, I made all that money, and then like walked away with some of it is what I'll say. So like, it. My parents and my wife and like my aunts and uncles, we would have these. So I would go to Vegas like all the time because we'd race there. We do bicycles, we do motorcycles there, and then we would do our family reunion there in November. And so we were just always there, right? And man, it was just always success. Like and so I actually was a at the time they had these, how do I want to say this, you could do these experiences out of the International Speedway there in Las Vegas, and I was actually one of the instructors for like driving like $2 million Ferraris and like Lamborghinis.
Yeah.
So I like would also make sure people didn't wreck these cars as they were driving them, and I still had like the fastest time for racing cars, not just motorcycles but racing cars, for an all-wheel drive, under 500 horsepower is a Lambo. But anyways, dude, I'm an all over the board dude. Because I like if there's ever been an opportunity, because like, dude, I'll get into all this in a minute. I was gonna talk about just death, and when you've looked death in the face, man, you realize it's real, and whether it's you or people that I've known that have passed, and just seeing all this, like death is real, man. So it's like, you know, eh, why I got the chance to dance, dude. I'm not only going to shuffle, I'm going to try to do a somersault. I
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
have that dance, dude. I keep telling my kids, if I ever get dementia and I say I'm all these things and I've done all these things, I really did do all these things, but they're going to think I'm crazy. They're going to think this guy's just talking crazy. But
Well,
like,
you've already had like quite a life. You know
dude,
what I mean? Like you're packing so much in.
I'm trying, man, because you just never know, right? And
No.
so we do all this Vegas stuff. I'll kind of get off Vegas because I don't want that to be a focus. But like, so dude, just tons of stuff in Vegas. We jump off literally every building in Vegas. Like, I take my whole family on one of our family reunions. Like, my thing was to like all well, not my thing, but like our whole families. We're all a little bit of adrenaline junkies. We wanted to jump off the stratosphere. So like our whole family, and I think everybody except for my grandma, like sent it off the stratosphere. Like we're just, it was like an experience, but like I don't know, man. It's just so we had all this precognition, and I could show it basically on command. Um, and so precognition has just always been there. Even man, even when I was like 18, I went on a cruise where you could gamble at 18 when you were in international waters. Like my very first experience being able to gamble, win like $1,000, and my parents were like, "Are you kidding me?" And yeah, so it's that's just always been there, right? And dude, I've won a car. Like I'm not even joking. I've won a car. I'm the dude that has won a car. So
Yeah, it happens to everybody. Yeah,
exactly,
right.
right? So dude, I have a Ghostbusters car because anyways, I won a car because it was a free car. We made it a Ghostbusters car a few years ago, but dude, totally won a car because that always happens to everybody. Enough of the precognition stuff though. So like, because I don't want everyone to think I'm just gambling because that's like the minimal part of it. Like that's just the fun
Right.
for when it was. But
Yeah.
we I get kind of more into my clinical settings, you know. So I've been, like I said, I did all those jobs. Within all that, a lot of my experience has been working with folks that are non-communicative, if I can say that word, but are nonverbal and really like we're talking like advanced dementias. We're talking, like severe autism, severe mental illness, um, and across the board, even like super. I mean, I don't want to say super because super is not the right word, but just very advanced mental illnesses and disabilities, and working with their behaviors, right, and really working as like a crisis intervention person, to de-escalate situations, and then being on the behavioral side to like either alleviate those situations or to do my best reduction of risk. I mean, just straight up keeping it as safe as I can for them and giving them the best quality of life, but making it as safe and legal as I can for my staff, right? So, within all that, and especially in like the educational setting, my wife's a teacher of 20 years. I actually worked in her school for 2 years in the autism classroom, and like I was well regarded there, across the board, and like especially in like skilled nursing type settings. I'm very well regarded, just because I know those regulations inside out. I've worked in skilled nursings for a long time. Basically any county, any Medicaid, any sort of state regulation I've got on lock. So, like I've just been able to kind of transfer that into all these different versions, and helping out where I'm needed, and doing what's best for what I can do to my community, right? And so we get all that. We kind of develop this like hyper tuned telepathy is I guess the best way to put it. So, and I'll kind of back up one second, and I'll go a little bit moto for a second, but it'll lead back into where we get back into the school. So I'm a retired motocross racer, supercross racer. I retired this year.
That's official now or what?
Official, dude. Well, and man, they just released a schedule like this week. I think yesterday they just released a schedule for the 2026 season. And I'm like, oh, do I want to race Supercross? But then it's also like, man, one more head rock, and we're probably not in a good spot. And I literally I've had like a core group because I'm a little bit older. I'm 40 plus, so there's been like a core group of like BA riders that like there's different classifications, but like that have just kind of like stuck with it through like past 30s. Like a lot of people will still do it in their 30s, but when you get into your 40s, it's like you just got your core group, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
so like half the group took huge hits this year. Like I don't know, I won't say their names. And one guy had heart issues because of a wreck. One guy, I watched his eyes get all messed up, and this is like a really really good friend of mine. Like, and so like just watching him hit, and it wasn't even like he like had a huge crash. He just kind of bounced, and the bike threw him forward, and he face planted. But at 30 miles an hour, face plant with a dirt bike's no
Yeah,
joke.
man.
So
And it's a matter of time, you
yeah,
know.
and we all know we're gonna crash, right? Like it's part of it. We know we wear the armor. You do your stuff, but that's you just don't heal as fast, right? And but
Yeah.
so yeah, so it's official. I still think I'm gonna race pit bikes just because it's much more scaled down. I think worst thing I could do there is break a bone. I probably won't kill myself, but speaking of which, in 2015, I had, my mom had passed in April. Championships kind of roll around in September, October. Was in a good spot to think I could win a championship. I was fourth, but like fourth, third, and first. Yeah, I mean, fourth through first, all were within like 10 or 15 points of each other. So depending on how everybody raced, and it was my home track, like the track I've literally ridden thousands of times, just caught a lip weird, got thrown sideways in the air. It's called high siding. Basically face planted, going probably 45 or 50 miles an hour. Blew up my whole left side. Um, Died for 4 minutes on the track. My wife well, my wife and my oldest son will just always have that, seared into their brains, and I hate that, but like they got to watch the whole thing happen, and the thing is it's at a track called IMI, so IMI's like bleachers are on like the, I guess that would be the south side, and where of course where I wrecked was on the north side with all the racing track in the middle, so they had to run, and it's probably a good like half mile of like running to where they could get around. And so by that time, it had already been about 4 minutes, 5 minutes from when it happened. The ambulance had got there. They red flagged the race, which is like stopping it because it's like a big enough deal. They're going to bring the ambulance on, all that stuff. Of course, I red flagged the championship race. Uh, Long story short, I come back to basically on the track. They get my heart going again. Learn about a defibrillator and what that actually feels like. Uh,
Man.
so so I'm still kind of conscious, but I'm not really conscious. I don't remember any of that. um Basically I wake up 2 days later in the hospital, unfortunately a hospital where all the nurses knew my name, but nothing that had been this bad. But and actually some of them I went to high school with, but the it's just so I wake up while I'm in this like state, man, of death. you know my mom would always pick me up by my ear, and so I have this like moment, and I can just, it's as vivid as if it was real, man. I literally see, like, I don't see my body on the jump, but I'm walking the jump with my mom, and she's like, dude, like, what do you think you're doing? Do you even know what you just did to your son? You know what I mean? And she's pulling on my ear, and she's giving me a mom
Wow.
like,
Okay. So so this is between the event and waking up?
correct. Yes,
Okay.
sorry, I should have been, so I'm having this out of body experience with my mom basically when I'm passed away. And so like it wasn't like I was astral projecting out of my body out of that moment. It's like my body was like, nope, that's too much. We're already out of there. You know what I mean? And so I'm at the track though. I'm on the jump, but there's no ambulances, there's no other racers. I'm just out there in the daylight with my mom on this jump, and she's like pulling me by my ear, like lecturing me and giving me a stern mom talk. And then like the best way I can describe it, because I can tell you one of I have so many things, man. One of the things that's most important to me, especially with being in the Psi Games, is keeping everything as relatable as possible, so that I don't go too far scientific, I don't go too far woo woo. I make it very relatable, right? So for me, this out of body experience was kind of like, I think it's the Christmas Carol, right? Or what's the one with the different ghosts that lead? I forget the name. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I thought that's what it was.
It was
Wasn't it
Christmas
Christmas
Carol,
Carol?
right?
Yeah.
Where it's the ghosts that lead him to like the
Yeah.
present, future, and past kind of thing, right?
Right.
The best, so it wasn't like the present, future, and past, but it was like my mom literally guided me by my ear after giving me a mom lecture and just showing me the impact I was having on like my kids, and like my son crying and my wife crying, and like if I were to die, like they would lose everything and all of this would have been for naught, you know what I mean? And just kind of this wake up call, you
Yeah.
know what I
So what
mean?
was the emotion like going
I
through?
mean, it was, I think it was just reality, right? Like, and and so I come back to, they didn't find everything, so I ended up like having more after I woke up, and I was able to put pressure on things, and so I don't leave the hospital for like 4 more days. It's literally like a year and a half of rehab. Like my entire left side is just like modern miracles of healthcare.
Yeah, yeah.
Um
And so I'm just curious, that moment, out of body experience with your mom, does that create any sort of shift in you after?
so
Like it seems like
100%.
you go 100%, right? Like full send. Did that cause you to just like
It
reflect or
Well, yes, and it also, so I'm gonna get to like where it kind of led to. So it's all this experience, right? Because I'm getting all this experience because pain was nothing new, but really the like realization of like, now you've got this wife and kids, man. This was a no joke. Like because like like when you're in the hospital and you don't have anything to do but sit with your bad decisions, or maybe the good decision, but your decisions, period. with sitting with pain and just your whole body wrecked, you got some time to reflect, like, really, was this the choice? Like, was notoriety or money or this or that, or, and some of these like local races, it's just clout, really. You're just doing it for the sake of it. You're doing it because you love it, is the reason that you're doing it, right? Or that you're passionate about it. But that was kind of the realization that maybe we need to tone it down. On the flip side, we were in the hottest part of like my career. So it was like, what do we do here? So like, cause I didn't want to, cause like a lot of dudes would give up at that point and or get hooked on pain meds, which I didn't do either. I actually
Mhm.
don't take pain meds, believe it or not. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, if I'm in the middle of like some sort of a crisis, like with a broken bone, like
Sure.
I will totally take a Tylenol. I'll take whatever you're going to give me. Right. But once we're past the incident, on the healing part, I've just had so many friends that have got, hooked on opioids or different pain killing medications, that I just never wanted to be a part of it. So the second I could get off of it, I was going to cold turkey it and get off. Right. Plus, I know, like, just working in the clinical healthcare scene, I know what, long term use of that can do to your body. Right? I'm kind of rambling, but so I'll kind of keep moving here. But so while having this out of body experience, my mom leaves me in kind of this like open space, like true kind of astral projection, like me just sitting with myself. There's this eye, I guess would be the way to put it. And as I enter this eye, I return to myself. And it was like and so like to get kids, because I know I'm just like I can already feel it on you. Um, it was my mom kind of guiding me through these like scenarios of making me kind of wake up to what was going on in the world around me. Potentially me connecting with my family telepathically in that moment. My mom just kind of being the like, I don't know, the guide to it. You know what I mean? And so while in this kind of like astro projection, best way I can describe it is outer space. I kind of see the best way I can describe is like a colorful void mandala of like purples and reds. It looks kind of like in the shape of like, your eye. And I enter it, I return to my body. We're back into Ryan full send. Oh my God, you guys missed my leg and my ankle, but you know what I mean? Like we're back into we're back into real life. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so the kind of in addition to that, though, I think from getting my bell rung a little bit in a positive way, as weird as that sounds, I developed these kind of like hyper colors. And so when I say hyper colors, the best way I can describe it to you is like if you had like a color overlay and you had like, like there's those old school like blue red 3D glasses that you could use, and they would give you kind of a different perspective. If you close one eye, you know what I mean,
Mhm.
it would kind of give you a
Mhm.
3D projection, right? So as I'm healing with this, like I'm thinking something's wrong with my vision, right? So I'm getting these multicolored kind of 3D projections. I'm realizing that like sometimes as these things are coming through, these pulses of color, sometimes they're kind of coming in and out of things. And maybe it's like, well, am I actually seeing through some of this stuff, or am I just thinking through the process of like what's making that? Um, but I get this like really big sense of situational awareness, this really big sense of emotion, this really big sense of male, female. I cannot speak tonight. Male, feminine, anger, hot, cold, colors, all feeling. You know what I mean? And it visually is coming through in this like kind of wave of these projections of like blues and reds and purples and to the point that I think I have something wrong with my vision, right? And so basically we go back, I have better than 2020 vision, and I could have, I've always had like super crazy vision. I'm the dude that can see the mouse running, a quarter mile up the road, and good or bad, I've just always kind of had these like hyper colors ever since, right? Never really did much with it. Just always kind of thought, well, I hope, I would always wear sunglasses. I typically wear sunglasses at most times, obviously not at night in my garage, but I wear sunglasses mostly just because it kind of helps to dim all the extra sensory coming in.
Right.
Uh,
So that's always there then?
yeah, it's just always there. And so it's a curse, man, sometimes. 'Cause so as I'm kind of like going through, I'm getting more involved with this telepathy. So this is all 2015. I actually keep racing pretty aggressively. till about 2018. I win a championship, do like one of our supercrosses here in the Mile High Stadium, like a lifelong dream. I get to accomplish a lot of these things that were the goals along the way. I kind of accomplished before 2018. In the process of all this too, I'm furthering my education. I'm still in the long-term care settings, honing in, and so I won't go crazy into this because this always makes me a little bit sad, but this whole time you're seeing a lot of death and it's kind of starting to weigh on me, right? Like especially in long-term care settings as a social worker, the place I worked at the longest was mostly long-term care. So it had a little bit less rehab folks. So you end up making these interpersonal relationships, not only with the residents but with their families, and you know everything about them. You know about their childhood, you know their families, you know their family dynamics, you just know everything about this person. And you're, uh, depending on the situation, you would be the last person that would be with them at bedside, and you're trying to make it as comfortable as you can with them, right? And I do want to just always mention this because I think it's important to mention, and I've seen a ton of death. I won't say a number because that number got thrown out there, and it is a real number. It's several thousand, but like that's not the important part. The important part was that it was an honor to be there for those people in their last moments across the board, no matter what the situation was. I'm glad because I do think there's this degree of telepathy with me where they could just give me a look, kind of like a mom with a baby, right? A mom with a baby knows what's happening just by that baby's look. You know what I mean? And so, being able to help them the best I can. And sometimes you're just able to be like, I can just be here, man. That's all I can do. Not that you're staring into people's eyes, but a lot of the way you can show that you're truly there with the person is eye contact, right? Especially when you're in a person, and not that you're trying to make aggressive eye contact, like, hey, but, especially in that moment, like, and sometimes eye contact's not the right thing to do, right? But I guess where I'm leading with this is that there's a spark in the eye, man. And when you see it, you know it. And it's like a gold orange spark in the back of the eye, in the back of the iris. And it's just the fire. It's the soul. It's in every person that I've seen. It's the spark, man. It's the soul. It's the difference between the animation and the body having that zest compared to when it's just not there, and I don't think it's
Yeah.
a material thing that's there,
No.
but it's almost like the flame, man. Like, if you're in a cave, and you can't if you're in a cave and the cave is dark inside the cave, if the fire's not on, you can't see how deep the cave goes, right? But when the fire's
Right.
on, you get the perspective, right? And so when you're looking into the eyes and then you realize it's gone, and that's the moment, I don't physically think I can see with my eyes a soul leaving the body, right? I tried to see my mom. I don't think that's something I can physically see, even with all my ESP stuff, right? I've not been able to see it. But what I can feel is that energy, that aura, that soul,
Yeah.
man. And
Yeah.
it's more palpable. The soul is, man. Like the same way that you can tell when someone's looking at you is the best way I can tell. And you don't even know where it's coming from. And you'll look right at the person and you'll make eye contact with that person, right? Because there's this connection. And so what I've learned, particularly kind of, you know, 2020 comes, there is so much death, and I become overwhelmed with it to the point that it was emotionally hurting me, to be in that setting anymore. Just because, man, you could say burnout, and that's fine. It was, man, but I mean, it was just there was a lot of things. There's a lot of different versions to that crisis time period of our humanity, and especially in the healthcare setting. It's like, everybody's too happy too. So it's like, man, if you're with just everything that was happening, it was like it just wasn't the right place. And plus, a bunch of teachers, not my wife, but a bunch of teachers kind of jumped ship. So then it's like there's all these other opportunities to be there with my kids. My kids went to the same school, so I got to be involved in their education in addition to like helping out, like I said, that autism classroom. And you just said, and really that ability to develop that telepathy, but then to kind of integrate that active vision. I guess this is
Yeah.
this is kind of where I'm going to start to get into all the psi stuff, right? So when people get elevated, you can say auras. I think it's less of an aura, more of like it's some like if I just to try to make it as realistic as I can, I would say some sort of an electromagnetic field that we all have. We all have an energy force, right? And when people are elevated, you project a lot more of it, right? And just verbally, you're loud. You're putting out so much more vibration. You're usually moving more, and you can just feel your heart rate. You know what I mean? Everything about an elevated person usually vibrates more, I guess. And so as I get this like kind of like intense pulsing of this energy that just doesn't go away, I start realizing that it has meaning, I guess would be the way to put it. And there's not a specific meaning, like it's feeling colors, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? But
Mhm.
there are moments where like, okay, I just need to take a moment and breathe. And I'll kind of talk about that in the racing, and I try to integrate all this. Um, but like when you just take a moment to realize what's happening with yourself and your body, when you take a moment to just maybe kind of remove yourself and see what's situationally happening around you, right? This like visualization of these colors would come in, and they would just like give me shapes or meaning. They would give me maybe just think about this in terms of this person's outlook, and maybe that might be the best way to de-escalate this, right? And it would always be like spot on first time. First, I like sudden real first time, no warm up. You know what I mean? And so uh just being able to help everybody in that biggest way. So at this point, pretty much across the board between my taxes and my career, pretty verified that we got some precognition on lock. Pretty good telepathy, or at least I'm so good at like nonverbal behavioral communication that like I might as well have telepathy, right? Through my education. So, I have all this death in 2020. I start hyper meditating, and then like I've been asked how often I meditate. Man, in that 2020 time frame, I was trying to refinance my house because of everything got real cheap there for a minute, and I still had a job. I was still doing my thing, so I was trying to refinance. And we just had a time period, dude, where it was like 15 deaths, and like five of them are like people I had for like the entirety that I was there. And like it just hit my heart. It hit my heart. Like everybody left that was like my coworkers. I was the social services director at that time. I've done like every job in long term care that requires a degree. But I was the social services director at that time. I think me, my assistant, like five nurses, and like maybe two CNAs out of the like 150 employee facility stayed when COVID was at its peak. And otherwise it
Mhm.
was like I don't know, I won't get into all that, but like the point of the matter is like it was just, man, every day you never knew what you were going to get, and you never knew who was going to pass. Every day was intense.
Yeah.
And when you start racking up all the other stuff that was happening on top of it, so I went to the school and it was amazing. But I guess I just have to reiterate, Greg, that, man, because that was a huge part of the psychic stuff too, is like really honing in that, because I think by honing in those kind of the precognition, because like too, dude, if you know a person's behavior schedule and you can kind of predict their behaviors, right, you're going to be a lot more effective. So just kind of really honing in that precognition, that telepathy. um we lead into April of 2025 when I hear Emily Bledsoe do a thing about the Psi Games. I have no idea what the Psi Games are. I'm aware of Carl Jung. I'm aware of, Robert Monroe. I'm aware of these like professional scholarly guys in terms of like my clinical career. I know the DSM-4 TR. I think it's DSM-5 now. Point of the matter being is like I know these guys from like a clinical view, but like I'd never done like in college you get some of the size stuff, but I don't really get much more than that, right?
Right.
My entire knowledge of it, and the reason I brought this all up from before with my mom, is that my mom is very spiritual. She would take me to metaphysical fairs. And I never really discounted any of it. It was never really like a negative thing or had any sort of bad connotation. It was just my mom's thing, right? I was clinical. I was trying to get my family going. It just was my mom's thing. She'd bring home cool, stones, and I never really knew what it meant. to now I'm on this side of it, but like it was just my mom's thing, right? And that was cool. So we start getting into all this Psi game stuff, right? And so along, I gotta say one other thing because it's kind of a prelude that just I have to say. So in 2020, literally, I win an arena cross championship. We are in Texas in March, and we are driving back from Texas, and we see all these military people. And granted, there's a lot of military people in Colorado Springs. There's a base there. But they like this dude like makes this whole big point to give both my sons, these like patches, just this kind of weird situation, right? We come back, I go back to work, uh, and I at that time I worked in Boulder at a facility, and I go to Pearl Street. There's a couple of places down there now that I know what they are, but this woman pulls me off, says she's going to give me this reading, tells me that I have this like crazy spiritual like presence, and that I have these spirit animals that are like yelling at her. And so what that person had said was that there was this shark, which is okay. Like I have tons of tattoos of sharks, and there's no way she knew that. Like I'm literally half shark. But like and she said this like wolf, which was like my mom saying like she always said this, she was this wolf and this like pack leader, and she was this protector and all these things, right? And then a lion, right? And that I was gonna lead these people into this like new future. And I'm like, that is amazing, but I'm on my way to go get a burrito and I've only got 30 minutes. You know what I mean? So I'm absorbing it and I'm not discounting any of it, but I never really had meaning to it, right? So we do all the other 2020 stuff. We get going for the Psi games. There's so much synchronicities the moment I take the leap and fill out the application for the Psi games, right? And so it is kind of a leap though, because I'm kind of known in these other communities for something completely not anywhere near that. You know what I mean? And I will say there's a pretty strong religious prejudice. How do I want to say this? Really strong religion presence in motocross.
Mm,
Um, everything from like and it's totally cool, like they do track prayers and stuff before races, and I'm all about it, right? But I guess where I'm going with all this is we start having these crazy spiritual experiences. Like the moment I started doing the side game stuff, there's these animal experiences. I have these owls and this hawk that do all this crazy stuff at my house. I live on 2 acres of property, so I do have some animals out here, and that's not uncommon. But like the way that they interacted with me, I had a hawk that would watch me. So we're kind of facing the interior of my garage. My garage door is over here. Literally, I would sit in here, I'd work on bikes, I'd do the side training stuff, and this hawk would just stare at me like nonstop for like 3 weeks, to the point that like after like into the second week, I'm like, hey guys, look at this hawk that's just hanging out. And so you can look at my social media and there's videos of the hawk, and like it like flew into my garage. Basically, it landed on my truck, which was parked in my garage, and like just stared at me, like had this moment of like, dude, this is all you. Like this is not meant. I'm not scoping out anything. This is you. I'm here for you. And this is like post Psi games. So I'm all over the board. So a lot of this time stuff's going to get mixed up, and people are going to be like, what is he talking about? But it's just there's so much, man. And because like the moment you start trying to recognize it and start paying attention, there's just so much more, right? And I think what I've really learned growing up and getting older and having all these experiences is, the killer of observation is rushing, right? And not taking your time, not taking that moment to breathe, not taking the moment to be in the moment, to absorb it, and then to just absorb the whole of it. You know what I mean? And
right.
that near death experience really kind of taught me like I still raced, but I only did supercross. Instead of like doing everything, I only did one thing in terms of like motorcycle racing. We went more to the BMX, and my oldest son, both of my sons are national championship BMX racers. We did all this traveling for that because it was definitely way safer. You still get hurt, but it's not, the same thing.
Right.
But so we go for the Psi games. I sign up. Um I know I got the precognition. Testing for precognition was basically just figuring out if it's all online. Is the target left or right? Is the box left, right? Pretty simple. But you get 20 options, or 20 I cannot speak tonight, man. Dude, here's the thing. I'm only a quarter of the way down on my copy. I
That's the
gotta get
problem.
going here, right?
Get it in you.
So we start doing the testing. I end up doing really well. Typically I can average now about 18 out of 20 at least. So I do the precognition, I test into it. Um I just decided to test for all 5 games. So I'm not sure like if you are familiar with the Psi Games. So the Psi Games, and you followed them and stuff, right? So, it was the first international Psi Games where you had people from Brazil, you had, I think there was like England and Australia, and you had a bunch of people from Monroe Institute, you had people from Vision Without Eyes, you had me, the Happy Gilmore, you know what I mean? And you had all these different versions of these teams and individuals from all these different backgrounds, and it was such a cool event, man. I have to give one moment of a shout out to that because I mean, so I'm always about leading with the heart, leading with love, giving back to the communities that give into me, right? So we get there on Thursday. We find out like 2 days before that you have to be there on Thursday to do the event on Saturday. So thank goodness we had got the plane ticket for when we did to arrive early and just kind of take our time. We go in, we do the like kind of staging of everything. It kind of runs through what it's going to look like. At that point, we find out what the games are kind of going to look like. Not really 100%, but we found out at least that for like psychokinesis, we were going to get an Igloo wheel. We didn't find out that the first mindsight challenge was going to be the donuts, but we found out that we were going to do, he had the football yardage thing, kind of like what I have in my garage, my training area now, where it's like the yardage to kind of test the distance for mindsight. But basically we got the rundown. Friday I wear my BMX jersey for my team. Well, I'm definitely standing out because I'm the only dude there in any sort of a like athletic jersey. I'm meeting all these military generals, man. Like because I'm a moto dude from Colorado. I love me some aliens and some ghosts, and I'm all
Yeah,
about that
yeah.
kind of stuff. And I do think it's all real. I can tell you it's real. Um, but to meet like Colonel John Alexander, and you're there with like Danny Sheehan, and you see these people on TV and Chris Bledsoe, and like I'm getting to have this moment with Chris Bledsoe, and it's like this dude's kind of especially in that like UFO community, dude's legend. You know what I mean? And
Yep. Yep.
so you're just meeting all these amazing people, and
There's
I'm
the
just kind of dude. Okay, so look right here. Uh, so dude, you get it. So this
Let's
is my
go.
perceptualist stuff right here with one of
Oh
the
yeah.
things. Chris Bledsoe's books behind the Psi Games program, and these are all my
Yep.
methods. So, dude,
Oh
it's
yeah.
I have the perceptualist or like the I don't know the event thing they gave out the packet, but my book's like right behind there. It's in the same spot, dude. Totally.
Nice. Nice.
But dude, like okay, so like the owl's the hawk. I don't want
Yeah.
anything to catch on fire at my house, though, dude. Like if anything catches on fire, the whole neighborhood's gonna go. We're crispy here in Colorado. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But so we do all the side game stuff. It was amazing to meet everybody. I met so many amazing people on Friday, and I can't even begin to start naming people because it's just so many. But everybody, I think everyone just didn't know what to do with me because me and my wife were definitely like that was not our scene to begin with. You know what I mean? Like we definitely, and I'm dancing, I'm doing my thing. Psi Games comes around on Saturday. I literally roll up dancing into the place, like, you know what I mean? And they end up running late. So I ended up having like an 8-hour dance competition with myself, star-lording it out in the corner, just trying to keep my energy up. Um, so they have 5 games. To kind of go back to the testing, I tested for all 5 games. So like they have a roster board of the top 15, which are folks that are potentially going to qualify. It's not a guarantee, but those are the top ranked people that have tested. Top 5 in all categories. So I find out that I'm definitely in. This is that back in the testing. We get there. They have the 5 games. They have dowsing, psychokinesis, remote viewing, precognition, and mindsight. Right, and so I actually tested and I think I still have the highest testing score for dowsing. I don't know that the testing for dowsing was exactly what I would consider dowsing, but I still have the highest testing score for dowsing, but they didn't let me compete there. But I think they had a certain amount of competitors, and with a certain amount of games, they wanted to keep it so that they didn't have one person literally potentially winning everything. You know what I mean? So they wanted to make sure there was variation. I guess would
Yeah,
be the
yeah.
way to put it. So I only competed in 3 of the 5 games. I ended up podiuming them. I ended up getting a podium in all 3 of the events I was in. I ended up winning psychokinesis, which was moving stuff with your mind, or like moving the iggly wheel is what we did inside of a controlled environment box. I ended up getting second in precognition. Totally lost to a dude that had it all the way, John Tran. We literally were battling literally to the last moment. It was just who was hitting buttons faster, because dude was on it, and I got precognition pretty good, so he deserved every moment of that. And then in mindsight, thank goodness I didn't have to go against Dahlia.
Yeah,
Dahlia
no kidding,
was
right?
the phenom of the Psi Games. She competed in the team version. I competed in the individual version, so I ended up getting second in that. Just showing across the board that I got, I can do all of it. I can do it all better now. Really, we only had from April when we signed up, and then I was just like, okay, well, we signed up. I better start training, because if it's gonna be in August, like I only got so long. That's 4 months, man. So I gotta become number one in 4 months. You know what I mean? So we just started trading without even knowing if I was for sure in. Um,
That's crazy, dude.
for
Like
for real.
that's
And so like in like kind of in the process of this too, and so like if you go back and look at any of my social media, I started posting my trainings starting back before I even knew for sure that I was in the side games, because I wanted everyone to know that I was real, because I every part of me knew that I was going to go and at least show. I would at least show for precognition. You know what I mean? Like I'm a racer, dude. Like if if I know I'm gonna just get last place, that's a hard pill to swallow. So if I'm gonna go do something, I'm gonna go make sure we're doing it. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna give it my best. So, we before we even know that we're in the side games, we're training, posting my training so people know, like, so if I because I even said from the beginning, like in April, like, so if I go and I become the international psychic champion of the world, like y'all know it's real, right? So, not knowing that was gonna happen. I even posted back in the day, man, like back in the day, back in April, I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna be the psychokinesis guy. I'm not Dr. Xavier. I can't move stuff with my mind. Freaking that's of course the one I win. You know what I mean? So of course it is. I have this crazy experience at side games. There's no other way to put it. And I think if people, because I mean you're familiar with it, but folks that aren't, you're literally talking a psychic competition with about, I think there was probably like 25 of us or so between the teams and the individuals. Um, Doing these events in front of probably at least probably 2,000 people, I guess. At least several, like, I don't know, an entire ballroom, and then outside standing area, enough that we took over this whole hotel, just at minimum hundreds and hundreds of people. And you're all on camera. There's like, multiple cameras of Akeem's moving to get different angles. All the games are on specific cameras so people can see what's actually happening in the games. There's no getting around anything that's happening. You're talking about trying to do this stuff, with teachers and influencers watching from one side, the generals watching, or I guess the generals were watching from behind us, and you have the judges, which are scientists from the community, overseeing the entire event and scoring it, right? So
Mhm.
there wasn't any getting around it, right? And I'm sure there's people that can dispute it, because there's always going to be haters on every side, and I'm sure it could have been done better in some ways. And I hope I'm going to be on that front line of trying to make sure that we're as controlled as we can be, because that's what's always been important for me, even from pre-sci games, is I show my environments, I show my training, I show exactly what we're doing, I show everything around it, and not to be facetious, but just to show, like, when what's happening is happening is happening. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, it's not
Yep.
like this is a magic trick. This is not
Right.
some, because there's so many different things that you can do, and that's why I think it's cool that, like, Psi Game is one of the big presenters was the Area 52 guy that's also a magician. You know what I
Chris
mean?
Ramsey.
James Ramsey. You know what I mean? So he's gonna be a dude that can spot a mile away if you're saying you're bending the spoon, and the spoon's already pre-bent, and you're just already at that angle. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
or I mean, dude, I'm gonna just keep my mouth shut a little bit, but there's static electricity can affect a lot of things. You know, there's different ways to manipulate things that I wanted to make sure that people saw me doing it, they'd be like, there's no way. I mean, what is he doing there? That's got to be what he's doing. You know what I mean? Because that is what I'm doing. You know what I mean? And it's important for me to know that like, and for like people to know that like this is like I try to be, if there was a real deal, you know, dude that says that they're the psychic champion of the world and can show on command, I want to be that dude. And if you're gonna make
Yeah, yeah.
lofty statements like that, you better be able to show on command. You know what I mean? So at least for the Psi Games, and a couple extra little things I can do. I've trained, man. You know, motocross in the '90s was kind of this like rock star sport where you had all these big names that were, you know, kind of living these rock star lifestyles, but there wasn't very much training to it. You know what I mean? In terms of like a competition, you know, people would train and they'd learn how to do the jumps, but it wasn't a regiment, right? And then you have Ricky
Mhm.
Carmichael come in with Eldon
Yeah,
Baker in this baker's factory where he puts in the regiment, he puts in the work, you know, and you have Eldon Baker as a trainer overseeing it, you know what I mean? And he pumps out 10 years of champions. And so,
yeah,
dude, that's my mindset. That's where I live. I don't, you know, I'm bicycles and dirt bikes and I'm a artist. I'm just a movement. I'm not idle hands. I'm movement. I'm getting it going. So like a regiment for me, I mean, I can get stuff done. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
give me a task, give me a reason, and I'll go show you. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
so, I put this regiment in place. It has the results at Psi Games. You know, I show that I can do what I can do. Um, I continue my regiment past the Psi Games, even probably more aggressively, because now I know I got that title on my back. You know, you know, because
You're
and what
ready.
and there's no other place I'd rather it be, you know what I mean? Because I don't say that necessarily in just a competitive way, but like, you know, a lot of the side games is meant to be the 5 minute mile, right?
Mm,
Put
mhm.
me and Dahlia out there and we can show, but then in 2026, who knows what's going to happen? You know,
Right.
who's going to apply in 2026? You know, I'm now to a point where I can do iggly wheels under glass and I can stack glass upon iggly wheel, do it Russian doll style and get everything to move. But I'm sure by side games, there's going to be some dude that can blow me out of the water. You know what I mean? And I'm sitting here training every day, you know, and I hope that's what happens. I hope people
Yeah,
see my regiment, you know what I
that
mean?
that sh that should be
And
the point of all this, right? Is to
exactly, right?
elevate, like,
Exactly, you
elevate
know,
it.
and
Yeah.
it's freestyle motocross, dude. Like, as much as I do want to win, don't get me wrong, I want to win. But at the same token, it's kind of like a nitro circus or like a Travis Pastrana's attitude, where like, you know, you're supportive of people when they have those moments of breakthrough, because then that just means the whole sport got elevated that much more, and it pushes us all to do that much
Right.
more. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and and,
So,
and that's a
this is
positive thing.
something I think it's important to say this. It's like you have an opportunity here to build a culture
Yeah.
around this, right? Like you're at the forefront of this. This is the early days of people waking up to the fact that it's not just you that has these abilities. We
All of
have
us.
these abilities. It's a human thing. And the more we lean into it and help each other with it, the more it's going to elevate this as a
Exactly,
thing.
dude, and you know, there's all these different technical versions, but I like my motocross versions. Dude, it's freestyle motocross. If I put out a video today of me doing a backflip, everyone's gonna be backflipping by tomorrow. You know what I mean? Or at least, you know what I mean? And it's, I mean, and that's amazing, dude. And I can tell you that is absolutely happening right now in the psychic community. Like
Yeah,
we all are kind of seeing each
100%.
other, and you know, and good or bad, I'm always kind of the happy Gilmore of the group, so maybe I'm a little bit rougher around the edges. But, you know, like, we're all just kind of elevating it, right? But you got people
For
doing stuff
sure.
that's not been seen, you know, on Dahlia's camp, and then, you know, I'm sure nobody else is jumping motorcycles with mindsight, so I'm doing all that
Yeah.
crazy kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Or riding
Yeah.
200-yard wheelies, you know, in mindsight mode. You know, it's just it's elevating, right? And I wouldn't have it any other way. Uh, I'm so excited for the 2026 Psi Games, man, because the presenters that are going to be there are going to be amazing. In addition to that, I won't give out too much information. I'm pretty sure I'm in, uh, but
Let's
I
hope
also,
so. Come on,
yeah,
Akeem. Let's go.
yeah, I know, right? I don't know that everybody. I don't know where you're gonna post this, but I numerology. Your 1111 headquarters, right? HQ, dude. At
Hmm, hmm.
2:22, all I'm gonna say is I got some amazing news. That's all I'm gonna say. At 2:22, I got some amazing news about the 2026 Psi Games. I'm not gonna say
Come
what the
on, you're
news
not
is because I
dropping it
don't want
here.
to.
Let's go.
Right? I don't know that everyone's got that same news at 2:22, but at 2:22, I got the news that 2026 is gonna be really amazing.
All
So
right. Well, this will
that
probably
all
be
that
out
all
of.
kind of innuendoed. Sorry, guys, because all of us all still talk. I don't know because I'm hoping
Yeah,
everybody kind of got that, but in case that's not the case,
sure.
uh, you know,
You're
as
a
it happens to
respectful
me,
guy. Yeah,
222, we're in. Uh, yeah,
that's awesome.
so but I'm excited though, because on top of all that, my youngest son's just amazing, dude. He's the sweetest, most heartfelt dude ever. He's a tornado. He's the Tasmanian devil in every way, shape, and form. It's just he's a love tornado, man. I don't know how to describe him, but he's been training with me, and so we're hoping that in this year they actually brought it out. So they just opened up the registration, I think just a few days ago, honestly, maybe about a week ago for the game. So anyone that's interested, if this gets posted here, reasonably soon, they just opened up. Go put in your application. But I put in the application for my son, so he's still got to qualify. But I'm hoping my son's going to be competing with adults or at least in a kids class. They did when they signed up this year. There was a 16 and under division. It looks like. And I kind of talked with Hakeem, and people put in input, and we thought like at least some sort of a demonstration with kids in the 2026
Mm,
version.
right,
Not just Lidu, but Lidu's amazing, dude. If you've never seen Lidu do her thing with
dude.
Vidalia, that's
Yeah.
next level, right? But
And that's with them, it's hard to deny, right? When you
yeah,
have
it's
kids doing it and, nonverbal autistic children
can't get
able to
around
do
it.
these
It's
things, like, come on.
yeah, dude, this is the thing. So like I'm saying all this, right? And I'm saying I'm this Ricky Carmichael of Psy. That's also a big statement. That being said though, dude, you can't be so one way and so skeptical that you miss miracles. But at the same time, you can't like you got to keep it grounded enough that you're realizing that sometimes it might be science and sometimes sometimes it might just need further explanation or further further investigation, I guess would be the way to put it. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Just it might
Yeah.
be and maybe and where I try to just be is the balance, right? To just explain the process. I'm not trying to say
Yes.
everything is exactly what I'm saying it is, but I'm telling you this is Ryan's experience. This is Ryan's results from Ryan's training. I talked in third party. I also say Monstrous
Yeah.
Nightmare. It's another bad habit. Dude, Willy Wonka is my favorite movie, and I also Willy Wonka words on
Hell
accident
yeah, buddy.
post head trauma. So, dude, if I start like Willy Wonking words, like saying things in reverse, just let me know if I don't make sense because I don't even catch it sometimes. But dude,
No.
it's and we do all this side stuff. We have all these things. We have all these animals. It's just it's and we really start hardcore paying attention since April, right? And we're now into January of 2026. I now have more than 6 months of data. So I have a trainer named Cheryl. Like I said, I really did put the training regimen to it. We train 2 to 3 times a week, like focused training, and then I in my off time, I here in the shop, I do the motorcycles. We're a little bit less of that now, but we do the bicycles still. We build bicycles, but I have like an enclosed igloo wheel that's like enclosed in glass. And then when I'm just out here doing nothing or I get elevated, I just focus on that igloo wheel. So you're just like it never it's the same thing with moto, man. Like when you're in it, it's a lifestyle, right? And not trying to say like size my new lifestyle, but like it's part of it now. You know what I mean? And it's there. It's just as apparent as all the
Yeah.
other stuff and being a dad and being this artist,
Well, yeah,
Psy's
like,
in there
why
and it's
not though?
engraved.
Like, to go in and win events at the Psi Games.
You got to,
Yeah,
man.
it's
Like
like, be a leader.
dude, and for real, like and just the other part is like I said, like it's kind of like freestyle motocross, dude. Like we all post stuff and we all see what each other post, and it's like, all right, well, because you know, I don't think any of it's like meant negatively, right? But there's, we are all trying to see where each other's at because I mean, it's going to be a competition in August.
Sure. Yeah.
And, I think we all got a little bit of things up our sleeves just to make sure we can go show in August. But I do. I don't post everything, guys. Come on, I'm a racer. I post
Let's go.
90%. There's still 10% in the back burner, dude.
You're a
But
competitor.
right, but at the same token, like, what's been really important to me too is, like, unlocking it for everybody, right? Showing that this isn't just Ryan. My son can do it. My wife's just doing precognition, so we do a really simple precognition. Anybody can do it if you just have a deck of cards. We do black, red. You know what I mean? It's just that simple. Black, red, 50-50 chance. And my wife's gotten to the point where out of a 52 card deck, she's gotten, I mean, for a long time, she was running about 39, which is still pretty impressive. I think she had like a 48 day, like less than 2 weeks ago. You know what I mean? She's so I can kind of go into some more of the side stuff too. So we talk about mindsight, right? So mindsight is basically being able to see through a blindfold or through a vision barrier of some sort. You got it, dude. So and dude, so I can even tell you, like I've done some kind of like, so I do all these videos, dude. I try to post every day. I have these people that try to influence me to be an influencer. I don't know if I'm 100% there yet, but they're all poking at me. So like, you got to at least post at least something every day, if not all this other stuff, right? So long story short, I had some people give me some razzing after one of my last podcasts saying that we have like holes and stuff. So I like went out about all the new stuff, did it all on video so people could see the entire process. I got two mindfolds, one for me and my son. We do the vision adhesive eye patches too. I've done a whole bunch of demonstrations with those. Like those things literally are like a 1/4 inch of adhesive with like a pad. So even if you're like, people will say like sometimes they get kind of crinkled, you're still talking like a millimeter of crinkle. You're still talking like almost a 1/2 inch of adhesive all the way
Yeah.
around. So if it gets
Yeah.
caught up on the mindsight mask, I don't know what to tell you guys, but you know, you're 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 doing all these things, right? And so in the side games, Dahlia talked about her windows being opened, right? And so for me, that just wasn't where I was. That's where I'm at now. Um, but that's not where I was. So and where my son's at is he's in like intuitive mindsight, right? So kind of some good versions would be these guys. Um so like colors, right? Trying to feel colors. Try to explain to a person how you feel colors, right? Well, the way you feel colors is I'm in that mindfold. I talk about like, so you're in your mindfold. Like how when you shut your eyes and you kind of rub them, you get like blues and greens. You kind of get these mandala lightning bolts of color, right? So for me, when I'm in the mindsight for a minute, I'm moving, I'm getting into that groove, I'm trying to clear out all this other stuff. On a motorcycle starting gate, I always have to say this because it's just so important, right? On a motorcycle starting gate, you have all this emotion, you have all this adrenaline, your bike's on, everybody else's bike's on. There are times that you're talking 40 dudes, you know what I mean? 40 dudes all going for like a 10-foot square, more than 10-foot square, but a 10-foot, track area. Everybody's going to be going full bore, right? And so it's intimidating, right? And so a lot of people get all pumped up for it. I would like grab my chest protector, I would do these 12 deep breaths and close my eyes and really focus on my breathing, um and just having that focused intention. And I think that's a lot of what, and not to say that everybody can't, but it is clearing out everything else.
Yeah.
And motorcycles are amazing because they clear out everything else, man. They just do. It's an automatic trainer. If you want to learn how to not think about your job or your negatives or the things that are troubling you, do some sort of an activity where it's like some sort of a bodily injury with what you're doing, like
Yeah,
skiing,
no
you know
doubt.
what I mean? Or, and not to say that that's like the only way to do it. Don't get me wrong. Like people can meditate and do their thing, right? But for me, it taught me that hyper focus and being on that starting line and envisioning just getting that whole shot, getting at least top 3, picking a single spot on that first corner where no matter what, we are we're second gear hard through that corner no matter what. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
So are you seeing what's going to happen before it happens? Like, I mean, you're sitting there in the calm before the storm. You're essentially going to go into the most chaotic couple seconds of the race,
right?
right?
Exactly. And I hope that's what I'm seeing. It's kind of a combo, honestly, right? I am definitely envisioning myself getting to that corner at least first, if not top 3. Like, and that envisioning of it, and feeling myself, knowing where I'm at, knowing where my bike's at, knowing the track. There's all these different versions to play into it, right? But man, it is mostly just full send. Like, you at this point, I'm committed. When I got that chest protector on, we're on that gate. There's nothing else. There's no kids. It's not like I don't care. I don't, but that's not anything that's on my focus. My only focus is making sure that me, this bike, and we are to that first corner as fast as we can, right?
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes safety, like if it's raining, but mostly that. You know what I mean? And
Right. Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
so you just learn this hyper focus, and within all that, you learn your body too. You know what I mean? You learn through injury, you learn a lot more about yourself and your body too, right? You learn when things are broken, you learn subtle things about your body that maybe you wouldn't have known if you hadn't had to sit with that, right? And so once again, with that kind of that color projection coming in, I can then kind of feel heat signatures. I can feel the emotions. Colors come through in pictures. And I know when I say feeling colors, it's not that I'm feeling the color, but like I'll get bubbles. Bubbles will come into that like Mandela color vision that's like swirling. So, um, for intuitive mindsight, it's really going with what your gut reaction is. And I wish there was a better way to say it, but it's those colors will come through in projections of like either images or emotions. And like, so when I just have to have something yellow in my hand. And a lot of times, like there's a band called Ice Nine Kills, and they sing this like remake of like Walking on Sunshine. And for whatever reason, I get this metal version of Walking on Sunshine, but I know that's yellow. Like if that's what's coming to me at that moment, that is yellow. Or like red is hot. Red will feel like anger. Red will feel spicy. Do you know what I mean? Or blue will feel cold or watery. I get more of an earth tone, or like rocky beans, or like coffee feel for like green or browns. Um and you get all these different senses in all at once, right? And you're trying to take in all this sensory information, and come into it. Well, it's a blue. You know what I mean? And when you and that sounds crazy, but when you really focus on it and there's nothing else, you're not worried about the other stuff, and it's in a fun environment, right? You're not punitive, like this is all you're thinking about. Sometimes you got to be
Yeah.
like that to get a win, but you know what I mean, like, but not really. You're taking it, you're taking yourself not very seriously. You're having fun with it. You're making it enjoyable so that you want to keep doing it, right?
Yeah.
Um, but you're just feeling all these intuitions, you're feeling these colors, right? And so then maybe September, post Psi Games, I'm sitting there doing my black reds. I'm just basically precognate, and I've got my mask on. So even though precognition has nothing to do with mindsight, I put on my mask. My mask is like putting on my boots and my chest protector, right? Like once I'm in those, dude, like it's go time. It's Psi time. When I put on when I put on that mindsight mask or the mindfold, it's Psi practice time. We are focused. That's what the dedication is for at least the time, right? And so I'm just sitting there practicing, and then I start seeing like out of the back of my head. There's just no other way to put it. I start getting the window. There's a light source that comes, and you start to get it in the back of your head. And then, okay, so then now I can figure out where the shadow is. Dude, I've got colors all of a sudden in the back of my head. I can call out colors without ever having it even in the front of me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
All of a sudden,
Mhm.
colors can lead into now the sheet. The shadows are becoming more defined and more open. I have this weird analogy of what I say it looks like, but I'm going to try not to give such an abstract version. But like a single point of light turns into a bigger shadow, and then sometimes that shadow, as my mind sight will open, will start to kaleidoscope. but there are moments where that kaleidoscope will meet and you're like, "Oh, it's 4 of something," you know what I mean? Or you'll get
Yeah. Oh,
like,
dude.
the way I always describe it is like a square is gonna look like a square no matter how you rotate it, right? But
Yeah.
like or like a plus. A plus is a like, that's not a good example, but, you know, like, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
It's gonna look the same, but so what I was learning is as I was training is so I started to try to do words. I learned that I'm mindsight dyslexic. So in the back of my head, I actually physically see it rotated backwards and sometimes upside down. Um, but
Oh, dude.
colors and shapes, I got all day because you know, there's no you don't need that left to right structure for those things. You know what I mean? So hopefully they don't have us read in 2026. I don't think that's part of it. But just for my own progression, that's really what I've been focusing on. Uh, Dahlia's the queen, right? Dahlia's the queen of mindsight right now, and she can read like little stuff, like she's just reading it like you know that close. Dude, I'm 40 plus. I don't know that I can read it that close anyway. You know what I mean? But like you know, like but give me a big old index card. I can now do index cards like 3 to 4 letter words at like 30 feet. You know what I mean? And so the further back I can get, the smaller I can read, which will allow me to read smaller things closer up. Hopefully, that's the goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but
Dude, I have so many questions for you.
dude,
Like,
let me keep going. Dude. I'm not even done yet, dude. So that's mindsight, right? So I start to get windows in the front. You know, physically, if my orientation, they'll come into the upper left, and a lot of times that orientation is to my back and my right. So you'll see me and I do this jaw flex. There's all this other stuff that I just kind of meditate on and realized about this jaw flex. The water shapes, the squiggly lines give me sour jaw. I realized that was like an incentive thing as a kid that like
mhm,
I just kind of had the epiphany of maybe about 2 weeks ago. Um, dude, I go in a gate program, but that's a whole nother tangent. I'm gonna
which I
stick on the
want to
Psi
hear
Games
about.
for a second. But like, uh, so that's mindsight, right? And then so we do that. We kind of what I do is I have a different version of it, but we did like color pegs on on a board, right? Where you'd match the color peg with that color of a donut, and you put the donut on a peg board. And then we did colors at distance, right? And so I've got a distance I've got 30 feet of distance now in my garage here that we train with. You know, I do iggly wheels. I won't do like, you know, and once again, everybody has kind of their own preferences. And I'm not saying that anybody does anything, you know, everybody's got their own abilities, dude. I am built for endurance and strength. I am not a speed sprint guy, right? And I am fully aware of that. And so there's other dudes that are speed sprint guys, right? But for me, like things like aerokinesis, things that, you know, that's just not my specialty, right? And so, for me, psychokinesis, it's really important that I have these controlled environments. So I won't do anything now that's not under glass. I won't because just because I've progressed to the point where I can do stuff under glass now, it's like mm, for me to go back to like an open iggly wheel would kind of be like going back to a beginner track. Do you know what I mean? And not to say that that isn't where people should progress to, but I just, you know, right now that's just where I'm at. So I don't do anything for an iggly wheel that isn't covered and sealed, basically. Just because I also think for 2026, you know, not that I'm saying I know because I don't know, but I have an idea that in 2026 it's not going to be the it looked like a sanding box, you know, like a workman's sanding box,
Mhm,
and it
right.
has that open top. That's what we did psychokinesis in 2025 with an open iggly wheel. I have a feeling maybe we do that same box, but then the iggly wheel itself will have a glass seal around it, right? Just to make sure there is no outside influence. So for me, like I said, it's just not that I discount anybody or the side wheels. I think that's all important. Those are all important things in terms of like practicing. But like if you're gonna be in the Psi Games 2026, you gotta have glass. You gotta have glass. I think that's just where we're at, you know, just like every year, X Games or like, you know, any games. Any year you're gonna see progression, and especially something where it's not like a sport, like, you know, it's a it's a because this is a sport, but not like a sport where, like, it's a game against each other. It's more like a against yourself, but you come out with a total score. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
More like you're
Like
doing like,
golf.
So I think what's going to happen is every year you like in the even in the Olympics, right? Things where you're scored against yourself, maybe the tracks become more elevated. We have Aspen X Games out here that I think even maybe this week. Every year they have different rules in place, or they'll elevate the games to elevate the competition. You
Yeah.
know what I mean, and bring more
Yep.
draw, or bring more people wanting to watch it, right? So I can guarantee you, guys, you got to learn glass. If you're doing psychokinesis, it's got to be under glass. I promise you, you'll thank me. Make sure you can do it under glass. Don't do it open, under glass. but but I think they're still probably going to use the Igley wheel in the Psi Games. I don't know how they're going to do dowsing. Last year they used the wooden panels with the metals underneath. And then they had it being dowsing for a particular like image on like a hard drive, which I thought that was a good idea, but like the actual application of it wasn't that solid in terms of the way they had the game set up. So I'm thinking that we're gonna do, a little bit a better version of that. I think remote viewing was done amazing, and I think they're probably gonna do remote viewing very similar, where they use an AI generated image. I post all sorts of videos that I do with that. You don't know what you're gonna get, right? So there's no way to cheat it, and a lot of times these images themselves are just nothing. They're collections of shapes and images that are combined. You might get eight-eyed piranha, and
Mm.
that's your target. But that
Mhm.
also proves that, like, if that person can match that target, they're locked in. You know what I mean? There's just no other way to
Yeah.
discount it. That's not a real image.
Yeah.
There's no way to precursor that. You know what I mean? And so
Mhm.
I think, dude, I think 2026 for the side games is going to be amazing. I encourage everyone to like look at my videos. I brought a bunch of stuff out. It's a little bit late. I don't know that I want to do all these demonstrations. I usually do all these demonstrations, but like, dude, like, I encourage, like, you could do dowsing with three cups and a ball. You can do precognition with a simple deck of cards or dice.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Even,
Mhm.
you don't have to be as crazy as me with my Igley wheels and glass. You can literally use like an apple or a chapstick, anything that you can put a pin into, and fold yourself a side wheel either with tinfoil or paper, and they all have the same idea of just taking that moment to focus on your task, if for nothing else. You know what I mean? If it's not teaching you anything else, it's teaching you how to focus on what you're trying to do in front of you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um
Yeah.
and I mean, dude, when you have your first like three in a row of like a remote viewing where you are so accurate, and you like there's no way not to be like, oh, there's something here, you know what I mean? And then you have like a moment where you do 52 out of 52 cards, and there's no other way to say you did it than, you feel good. And so
Yeah.
good or bad, I was the happy Gilmore. I have all this energy. I was making people cheer when everybody else was trying to meditate. You know what I mean? Like I was definitely kind of a little bit more rowdy. I still plan to be rowdy. Plan to cheer, guys, if you're going in 2026. But like it's 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 just about having fun and leading with the heart, man. And I've said this on other podcasts. If this isn't, you know, for me, unconditional positive regard is the best way to explain this. And leading with the heart, leading with love, maybe just realizing, man, that as much as you want to hate on other people, they can hate on you. And it doesn't have to have
Mhm.
any rhyme or reason. And we're all entitled to our own opinions, man. Like, I can disagree with you and still think you're an amazing person. You know what I mean? And you just can't judge. Whether it's me and my human services and all the stuff I've grown up with, you just don't know what brings another person to where they are in their life, man. And if you were in those shoes, where would you be? You know what I mean? So I guess kind of leading with that love, having that love hyper overlay of that ESP, having the precognition kind of always there. Dude, I could
Mhm.
go into the whole gate program where I am 100%. I'm just gonna say it. So I 100% went to Cole Elementary, and Cole Elementary in like '93. I from Miss Sconyers, or from Miss Blakemore to Miss Sconyers, my third to fifth grade. I was in the talented and gifted education program at Cole Elementary, and once a month I would get taken out. And I don't have any negative connotation to it. A lot of people will talk about negative stuff with gate, but I can tell you for sure, Zener
Yeah,
Car.
so tell people what that is.
Yes. Okay, so I'll give you a little bit of the lore, and I'm gonna say lore, not fact. a little bit of
Hmm.
the lore about the gate, and I'll tell you my experience at gate because there's a lot that's probably true. I don't know that all of it's true, right? So, and so one of the good things about me, man, one of the things that stuck with me. My speech has gotten kind of hit with some of these head injuries I've had, but my memory hasn't, and my vision hasn't, right? So I can give you emotional like versions of memories that I have vivid just because for me these memories aren't just like any memory has never been just a memory. It was memory combined with emotion and color and the things that were going on, right? And I think a lot of folks that have kind of a predisposition to ESP of any sort will have these like vivid emotional memories. I mean, not to say that you can't have it any other way, but I just think it's kind of a, the same way if a kid, is really good at catching a baseball, they're probably going to be a good baseball player, right? And it doesn't mean they can't play basketball. You know what I mean? It's a bigger ball. It just means that they're probably going to be skilled at ball sports. I guess would be the way to put it.
Hmm.
Kind of off task version there, but um, we the GATE program was potentially, and I'm just going to throw this all out there, potentially a CIA funded version of education that came through in the 80s and 90s, at least in my generation. I think it was started even earlier, maybe in the 70s, to not only kind of help accelerate folks that had different dispositions to either education and learning, or maybe more artistic versions, but to help kind of accelerate them and give them a platform to get more education in those, right? And that's how it was at least promoted to parents, is what I'll say. So being a gate kid in the 90s, it was sort of that. I don't know that that's exactly how I would describe it. Um, the lore to it was that it was the CIA funded program to kind of do a nationwide, or at least state to state. In some states, I've posted some stuff about states that got different versions of money for it that would fund it, to do kind of a screening for psychic or more adapt psychic abilities in elementary school kids, right? So um you know I can't say yes or no to any of that. I'm not going to pretend that I know yes or no. What I can tell you is I was for sure in the talented and gifted. That was a real thing. That gifted and talented education was absolutely a thing. That still was a thing even through the 2000s. You know what I mean? Um, but I would say early 90s, late 80s, it was just different. And so Cole Elementary had this, anybody shout out to Broomfield folks, but Cole Elementary had this like library, and it had these built-in bleachers, and right behind the built-in bleachers was a non-windowed conference room. It was also the detention room. But because Cole Elementary wasn't that big of a school, right? So it was this conference room like in this corner, and long story short, once a month I would get pulled from class, and I think it was usually from about 45 minutes to an hour, and I would go to this gate program, right? And it's usually one or two kids. When I went, it was mostly just me. I don't really remember anybody else. I remember kids being in line for the drink, which I'll get into. But I'll talk about in a second, but
And
I don't
so,
remember actually testing with any other kids.
okay, did everyone get an opportunity, or were they only identifying certain kids to go?
I wish I knew the answer, man. You know what I mean? Like just straight honesty. I think we're talking third to 10th, fifth grade.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember there because fifth grade, you're fully online. I got those memories, right? But I don't. I just remember that that's what was happening for me. I don't know the backside of it, right? And my mom's not here anymore to kind of give me that. You know what I mean? And anyways, my wife's a teacher, and there's still like an accelerated, but they call it like STEM now. So they have more STEM classes, and you still have like advanced placement classes, but it's not the same, right? So long story short, I don't remember ever being tested with other kids, but I remember other kids being in line for the drink. I had this one tester that was always my dude. It was this longer haired, kind of younger guy. I just remember him having the longer hair because in the 90s, you're kind of coming out of that 80s haircut, but everybody like the 90s haircuts for most kids were pretty tight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was a much tighter version than what it is now.
Yeah.
So this dude had long hair. I
Shaved
just remember it
lines.
sticking out, or the buzz cut, you know what I mean, or the bowl cut. But you know, so I just I distinctly remember the dude. I never had any bad experiences. I think he made it more fun. Like, I don't know that I got like a hardcore. Maybe I got the nice guy out of all these guys, you know, potentially. But and I don't remember anybody else having really any negative. But like you asked about like if there was some sort of a screening process. So I've always been an art dude, and I'll kind of tell you more why I'm saying that. But my best friend that's still my best friend. We've literally been best friends since like kindergarten. He's a doctor in Michigan and he doesn't remember any of it. Like he never got, and he was in like in high school, he was in the advanced placement classes, but he was never part of the GATE program. And we both went to Cole Elementary. And or if he did, I don't know that he didn't take the drink, or not to say that's exactly what it was, right? But but his parents weren't involved. Like my mom was a teacher at Cole Elementary. So, you know, when there's potential, there's lore that at the end of the testing that they would give you either a pink drink or a tablet that would affect your memory, that would, you know, maybe it maybe didn't affect your memory, you know, like in a 5 hour period, but extended prolonged exposure to it would in your 40s make sure that you don't remember it, you know what I mean, so that you don't have all that, right? Or there's all
Mhm.
this lore about it. No, you
Yeah.
know, there's all these different versions of that. So
Mhm.
I know for sure my mom did not let me have the pink drink. I can tell you where the pink drink was done in the cafeteria, with these like paras that would do it. And like, here's the thing. I know all those teachers at Cole Elementary, and it was like one or two dudes ever that came in for the skate program, but they would have like the paras and stuff help. So I don't think anybody at the school thought they were doing anything that was harming kids. So I just want to make sure I also say that. Like,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's really important to me. Like,
Sure.
if there was anything that was like that, those teachers didn't know. You know, they're following some government official's version of best practice, and they're like, okay, well, you know, who am I to say anything different, right? So I just want to make sure people understand that too. Like, if you were a teacher in the '90s and that happened and you were part of it, nobody's blaming you. You know what I mean? Uh, anyways, we would go into the room. You would start off with some sort of a written test. So like there'd be word puzzles or these like, I don't know, just different word versions or number versions where you're doing like a worksheet, right? And then they would put you into more of a functional test. So the functional tests were always my favorite. It would be everything from these knots. They would have these I think they're called tanagrams, but you would do these tanagram puzzles. And what I think always would blow their mind about my tanagrams, right, is that they would be like, okay, well, make a bird, and I would make a bird, but then my bird, I could make the things stack on each other and make it like 3D. So my bird wasn't just flat on the,
Mm.
you know, desk. My bird had like form and had feathers. You know what I mean? And you know, it just, dude, I carried that through my college too. They're like, we want you to show that you can make a structure that can support 50 pounds of weight. So I made a tank. You know what I mean? At the Art Institute. It means I made a fully functional drivable tank that could carry like 250 pounds. Did not need to be that way, but that's where the motivation was. I'm like, dude, you want to see 50 pounds? I'll give you 200, and I'll give you wheels and a steering column. And anyways, it's just like that's just always been my mindset, though, right? So, but like that's just like my creativity, and once again, I think not taking it so seriously, kind of tapping into your childhood, man, tapping into
Right.
your imagination. Willy Wonka is my favorite, dude, because Willy Wonka's chocolate did not have to have a rhyme or reason, and it tasted amazing, right? And it used all these weird, funky ingredients to make this amazing outcome. And you know, and I think
Yeah.
life's kind of like that, dude. And who knows that two stinky gym socks and some bills and some bad luck aren't gonna make the most amazing outcome that you've ever could have anticipated. You know what I mean?
Right.
And off that tangent, back to the gate. I go through all this, you know, just all these verifications that like there's just something extra, right? And so now on the backside, I've got the medals. I've got the verification in my heart, man. And so now my heart, all honestly, man, I still have a 9 to 5, but it's even hard to, because you just kind of vibrate at like a different level when you start
Right.
really being able to share it with people, and then you start seeing people's eyes light up, and you see when you've seen that death and that little glimmer of that soul, but then you see someone's eyes light up with the joy of like, dude, did I really just get that remote viewing? Like, oh my God, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And someone that they maybe has no idea what remote viewing is, and you're just trying to walk them through a process, and they come up with this amazing answer, and they're like, oh my gosh, and that little spark of sparkle on the back becomes a fire, a flame, and you could just feel it on them, and being that inspiration for people, trying to show people you can do it at home. You don't, a lot of these things are pretty expensive to get like a professional trainer in the Psi world. I post videos, man, to show you can get the same results by maybe spending $100 on Amazon. You know what I mean?
Right.
and
Yeah.
and putting in the time and dedication, and I have started to do some training. I don't know that we're gonna have a team Monstrous Nightmare quite yet. I had thought about having a team Monstrous Nightmare, but I have a feeling some folks that are gonna be participating in the side games are gonna be students of the nightmare here. At
Nice.
least the Rhino pit. But um it's just making sure that I'm posting these things and spreading it out there to let people know that this is real. It's something we can all do. I can go into another tangent and go into like it's connected to like UFO phenomenon. It's connected to being able to I don't communicate with spirits, so I'm not like a medium or something like that. But I can tell you the same way that I can feel energies, the same way that I can feel the feminine male, the same way that I can connect with the igloo wheels through the glass, that same kind of force connection. It's not like when people describe it, I wouldn't say it's like an ether. I can't feel the in between me and an object, but I can feel that an object's there, more like an echolocation. But it's that color pulsing. It kind of gives me a physical version of where it's at too.
Yeah.
You I just want people to kind of know that, like, I've got all this extra, and yes, I have all this stuff I talk about. But man, if you just put in that focused intention, you put in that time and dedication, you're going to be in a whole different spot than if you give it 1 month of 2 days a week. It's just like a workout schedule, man. You're going to see results. You may not have your 6 pack abs yet, but you're going to be in a better spot. You're going to be able to have more precognition. You're going to be more in tune with yourself for nothing else because you put that time away. That everybody talks about meditation, right? And how you're really learning yourself in that meditative state, right? You're having to sit with yourself, you're having to sit with your thoughts, you're having to sit with your decisions. You know what I mean? And I think that ability to recognize all that and separate what needs to be separated, but then focus on a task, right? That same way I grab the chest protector and there's nothing else. The same way that, if you really want something, you have something in your heart that you are just desired on, man, for me, I am only speaking for me, but for me, it just takes over everything. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
there is hyper focus. It is, as much as there's a spirit animal of a shark, I will 100% circle my prey and wait for that one moment to explode up into that, the moment where the shark gets the seal and flies out of the water, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna figure out everything I can do to get it. You know what I mean? And not to say that everyone needs to spend 8 hours a month doing side practice if that's if you're not trying to be a Psi Games champion, but just showing people that there's so much more, man. There's so much more of a way to connect to life. There's so much more to life than your 9 to 5. There's spirituality to all of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you take the moment to recognize synchronicities, to know that 222 is a sign, man, you're on the right
Yeah.
path. You're to
Yeah.
to take the animal connections, to I will straight say it. I've had orbs. I've had what I would consider some sort of an intelligent light source or energy ball or plasma orb or some sort of a sign, you know, show me that we're doing the right thing, for nothing else. Or at
Yeah.
least that I'm paying attention enough that I'm the one that got to see it. You know?
Right.
There's all these people in Denver, all these people doing, all these things in just in my neighborhood, and they're not just taking the time in the moment to just enjoy life, to just be in that moment and just sit with yourself, man. And I don't know. That's my long ramble, dude. There's still dirt
I
bikes and all this other stuff I could talk, but dude, start throwing the questions. I'm ready. I'm ready.
well, you know, you probably don't know anything about my story. And it's one of the reasons is I haven't really shared it yet with people. I got an episode with Corey coming out because Corey interviewed me recently where I talk a little bit about it. But, you know, this is the 1111 podcast for a reason. And it's because of the synchronicities that have happened in my life. And, you know, this is a really special moment for me to talk to you because it feels like a real convergence point. It's not surprising to me that, you know, Corey's my buddy, Heather's my buddy. They've both interviewed you. Um, it's like everything is leading me to this path right now.
Absolutely.
And so I had an opportunity to go to the Monroe Institute last year. Me and Corey went together. And, you know, I won't get into my whole backstory, but things really started to happen in 2018. And in 2018, it started with meeting a psychic medium who I just interviewed yesterday. So that
Nice.
episode's going to be coming out soon. But I started experiencing the 1111 phenomenon about a month before going to see her. And all these things happen in our conversation. She's just nailing things, nailing stuff about me. I'm recording it on my phone. And at the end of it, I press stop and she sees my phone and it's 1 hour, 11 minutes, 11 seconds. And she's like, have you been seeing this number? And long story short, the advice she gave me is start paying attention to the synchronicities because the universe, whatever you want to call it, is literally communicating with you. And the more you pay attention, the more these amazing things open up for you. And for me specifically, she said it would lead to a path of service because that's the question I was always asking myself is how can I be of more service? Anyways, that's 2018. I start getting premonitions about COVID in 2018. I didn't, I honestly did not know it was going to be a pandemic though. It was almost as if I could pick up on that energy of all that all that negativity that came from it and that has come since. And that's a real ugly feeling. And I didn't know how to communicate this. It's very weird and dark and negative, but I just knew it as a personal in this internal reality. But I kept quiet about it. And then it happens. And I'm like I knew this was going to happen.
Dude,
Um,
you're preaching to the choir. I'm telling you, you know, I don't mean to interrupt. I want to hear the rest of your story, but
no,
just as you're saying this,
go
dude,
ahead.
like you have no idea. Premonitions are nuts. You know, I have my wife at least half the week. I have horrible sleeping issues. I usually wake up directly at 3:30 every stinking night. Like,
Mhm.
and it doesn't matter where I'm at. I could be in a different time zone, and I wake up at 3:30, right? Or 3:33, of course. And like, you know, you talk about these synchronicities and stuff, right? And the 222 of getting the news, right? And d- okay, I don't want to go too crazy, but we saw these alien craft at 11:11. A lot of times when we see stuff is at 11:11, right?
Dude.
And like you talk about these synchronicities and premonitions, man. I'm gonna get real deep on you. I had a dog, and so I'm gonna give you just three versions. There's gonna be, and they're gonna get progressively darker, but it's important to say. I had a dog named Callie. Callie, we bought as a puppy. I could tell she always had this breathing issue, but she ended up growing, you know, up for like a year, and then she just passed. And there was this moment where, like, I even told my wife, I'm like, this dog's not going to be my track dog because it's got this breathing issue, and like we did all the stuff we could for it, and it ended up just passing, right? And you could just know in like in I'm just gonna say it. We're gonna go for all three of them here. I got a call from my dad, and the moment that I never get a call from my dad, and the moment I got a call from my dad, I knew that's when my mom had passed. And of course, you know, at that time it was like 3:33. You know what I mean? And in the afternoon, my mom ended up pass my mom and me both like died and came back. She ended up, of course, dying again. But my mom was a strong woman. Like, she ended up dying and was dead for, I think, 4 minutes, and then came back, and then like lasted another 10 hours, and then said goodbye to everybody. Anyways, but like, dude, you're preaching to the choir. The second you start paying attention to it, you can't deny it, right? I you can't unsee what you've seen, right? And I there's this whole other thing where there's this thing that we call a shrimp moment. Any of my kids, any of the people I've done therapy with, any of the people I would do psi with, I'm like, what was your shrimp moment? It's the moment when you realize, we call it a shrimp moment because it was this moment my wife had an epiphany. It's an epiphany moment, and there's shrimp involved. So, anyways, we call it a shrimp moment, but it's this epiphany moment within yourself where you realize that, like, maybe this construct of what you've been told life is not the real. You know what I mean? And not to say that like everything's not real. I am a real person. I physically feel. Maybe I'm frequency and some sort of a holographic, who knows? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But for me and Ryan's experience right now, while I'm conscious, I'm in this body. I know what this body does. I have real responsibilities. I have people that depend on me. You can't be too off in the clouds. But at the same time, my whole family has experienced orbs, and we've experienced the number synchronicities. Dude, uh, with the lottery, dude, if there is, not that I'm encouraging everyone to do the lottery or gamble, but man, if you can connect synchronicities and like number language into like gambling, man, you can be successful. But like, and not that I'm encouraging that, but that's not at all anything I'm about. I'm just saying it can be done.
Right.
But like, dude, first off, tell me the rest of your story, or as much as you want to share. But like, I just want to give you the verification, dude. Don't even think anything about it, because like, here's the reality. Like, because my wife's family is very religious, and I'm just gonna say it openly. Like, they know it, and I know it, and I become the Psi Games International Champion, and I catch hate. You know what I mean? And it's cool. Like, it's just because that's just where they are, and they, in their beliefs, that's where they are. And I'm sure if I went to some other, culture, I would also not fit in exactly. Do you know what I mean? But it's the same thing, man. When you've seen what you've seen, you can't unsee it. When
Right.
you pick up on the frequencies, and you pick up on the numerology, you pick up on the fact that, like, probably what you're being told by your schools, like, my wife's a teacher, and I think we teach people with the truest of our hearts, like, you know what I mean? But I do think there's an agenda to schools. I think there's money to everything. Dude, the worst part of being what I would and I'm gonna say this again loftily, a confirmed psychic. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, the worst part of it, man, is you can just feel people. You feel their attentions. You feel their emotions. You know when they're feeding you BS, and looking for a way to, maybe they're going to promote to you that they're trying to do something amazing for you and the community, but it's not. It's for money. You know what I mean? And so much of the world is based around money and greed,
Yeah.
and how to optimize profits, and it's hard for a person that's just not even on that wavelength, right? Like,
No, that's the thing. Like, especially when you're an empath,
yeah.
because
Dude, thank you for
I
using that word. Dude, I caught crap for using the word empath. Empath is a real word. When you say empath, you can feel people's emotions. You can get the energies of rooms. Empaths are real, and it's
that's
not a
right,
lesser
baby.
word. Go on, go on.
No, it's like y- you're empathetic to people, and that includes, people like that, people who can't. So the way I explain this is we all see life through a framework, like picture a little frame, right? And that's everything we know and we've experienced. And we can maybe imagine things that are outside of that, but it's not really a reality for us. But just because you haven't experienced something within your frame does not mean it's not real, right? And then when something new comes in, you have this new experience and you're trying to share it with people, there's people who maybe are honestly skeptical, and there's nothing wrong with that because those people will have the opportunity to invite those things into their framework. But there's people who are just dogmatically cynical who will just refuse your experience. And it's not right. So,
Dude, I feel you. And so, and once again, I love my wife's family. Don't get me wrong.
yeah.
I can agree to disagree, is what I'll say. And we just move on, man, right? Like, I do my thing, you guys do yours, and we coexist. We have this
Yeah.
family, and it's
And
fine. You know what I mean? But,
that's the way it should be.
right?
That's the way it should be, is like agree to disagree, but don't shut down somebody else's
Exactly.
very
Don't dim
real
somebody else's
experience.
light just because you're not wanting to. Maybe you're not wanting to amplify that light, but don't dim somebody else's light, dude. That's that. If you want to know what was learned post Psi Games, uh, I can say I went in front of generals and scientists and did all this stuff. You can't tell me I didn't do it. You know what I mean? So
Right. Well,
when you
they'll
say psychics
try.
are not real,
Yeah.
dude, psychics are real, and this stuff is real. Like I am very vocal, and I know I'm the Happy Gilmore, but there are so many other perceptualists that are much more tame. I think I'm relatable, but I know I'm animated, and I know who I am, and I wouldn't
But
have myself be anything else, right? But these are real people with real abilities, and we showed them in a controlled environment, and to enough of an extent that everybody that was there left amazed. I mean, when Dahlia and Lidu did their telepathy, there was just everyone. I mean, half the room was in tears because it was just like, what are we even witnessing here? You know what
right.
I mean?
Right.
And you and then you have, like, if anybody at home, please train. Just do, even if it's just fun on
That's
a Saturday
right.
night, just have, instead of playing solitaire, just do black red, and every time you do it, try to get one card better. You know what I mean? And when you start to be able to predict this, you're like, okay, maybe there is something. Or maybe when you're on that beach, just take that moment to put the cell phone down and look at the ocean. Look at the creatures in the ocean. Look at the skyline. Take a moment to just be in that moment, and life is going to talk back to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
And
that's the thing about opening up to this. It's like the more you have, I call it faith trust, right? A lot of people use belief, like, forget that. Just have a faith trust that you can do it. Lean into it with this like positive intention, and all of a sudden it starts to happen, right?
dude, you don't want to come up short on a 100-foot triple. You're gonna know you're gonna do it, right? And you're gonna do
Yeah.
everything you can to make it happen because it's what you want to have happen. That's what you're sending, right? Dude,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
And
So yeah, uh, you know, I have this experience, right? And I've had stuff from childhood as well. I had a near death experience as well. Um, but it's almost like everything that happened in my past was preparing me for now and what's to come, because it feels like we're really in a serious shift right now. Big things are coming, and they're coming quickly. But, anyways, I've started making a list of all my significant moments, looking back from the past, and I write down, okay, this feels in retrospect like a very significant spiritual moment. A big one for me happened in uh, 2024, March of 2024, when I got Chris Bledsoe's book. And the way that happened was wild too. Again, these 1111 synchronicities. I run a business. I have no time, right? Like I'm constantly trying to get time for
100%, dude.
myself. That's why we're doing this so late.
Yeah, dude,
Um,
100%.
but anyways, I have no time to read physical books anymore. So I listen to books on Audible. So this book is constantly being recommended to me, UFO of God. And it's like, I love UFOs. I like God. Why the hell am I not buying this book? But I'm not. I'm just like ignoring it. Like I have some preconceived notion of what it is, not even looking into it. But it keeps being recommended to me. So finally, the one day, my phone makes a sound like I get a message. It's lying on the table. Turn it over. It's already open without me putting in my code. It's open to Audible. UFO of God is on, and it's 11:11.
Dude.
I'm like, okay, I guess I gotta buy this book.
Dude, dude, it's so funny too, because you're a brother from another mother, man. Because here's the whole thing: I don't read anything, dude. When do I have time to read? When do I have time? We're trying to train. We're trying to do bicycles and motorcycles and
I got
kids.
no
And kids
time.
got sports. There's no time. So, dude, we were
right.
actually driving like across the state. We live in Brighton. There's a place called Durango that's like 6 hours away. I totally listened to the book on audio too.
Oh
Dude,
my
'cause
God,
it's
dude.
just because you can multitask it, right?
Oh, yeah, you know what else is crazy? In, I think it was 1989, my parents bought a place in Boulder, Colorado.
Dude,
So I'm from Canada, right?
yeah.
I
But
you
you're
can probably
familiar
tell
with it.
oh yeah, I have tons of friends in Boulder. So this is what's crazy. It's almost like things were being set up for me to live in Boulder in the late 80s. Like my parents literally bought a house, but because of some family dynamic stuff, that didn't happen. It was kind of like shut down suddenly. We
100%.
stayed here, probably for the best that happened. But it's so weird that I have all these friends from Boulder now, and it's like this spiritual community.
Dude,
Anyways, that's a
I'm just gonna
sidebar.
I'm just gonna throw this out there, dude. If because I don't want to sound one way or the other, right? Because I like to be this kind of in between, the golden mean. I like to be the balance. I'm as evil as I am good, but it's the light that shines through. But dude, if there was a spiritual hub, I mean, Boulder
Right?
is
Yeah.
pretty much the place. Like,
Yeah.
in even Colorado, right? Like, I'm not gonna lie, I know all the state DORA regulations, the Department of Regulatory Agencies. And to do psychotherapy here in Colorado, you just have to have oversight by a licensed practicing counselor, right? An LPC. Uh, you can pretty much have any, and I'm not saying this in a negative night, but I'm just saying this in like a functional, you can pretty much have any form of therapy, and there is every form of therapy here in Boulder, Colorado. And especially in like the holistic and natural psychic,
Hmm.
we are a hub for that. I mean, we have Naropa.
Right.
Naropa is
Yeah.
in Boulder too. Like, I actually I ended, but in back in the day, I actually was going to work at Naropa as their HR person. um,
Mm.
so Ram Dass created Naropa, right? So once again, man, you've got Boulder CU, you've got Pearl Street, which once again, man, Pearl Street literally has a psychic a psychic thing on it, is what I'll say. The Psychic Institute. I don't know if it's like the Monroe Institute, but it's got its own psychic thing physically on Pearl Street. And like, I mean, I'm jealous of you too, man. I out of all the things to do in the psychic realm, like, and all these different trainers, I've been able to meet a bunch of these people, and once again, I'm just sharing Ryan's experience. I don't put, I'm not intentionally trying to put down anybody else as a trainer or any of these long-standing, practitioners that are in place that help train people. But the one I am jealous of, man, is the Monroe Institute. Like that's got legit history in the
Yeah,
Psi
dude.
community. And man, it's just so expensive. I'm straight up. I race all these things. I could sell a couple of bikes, but and now that we're retired, maybe we're going to be on more of that side of it. But you know, that's the one, man. Like because
Yeah.
there's just so much history just to be a part of that place. Too, I'm excited for you, man, but a little bit jealous. Out of all the things, I think the Monroe Institute's the one I want to do before as a bucket list.
Well, I was very close to having like putting a group together to go in 2026, but it shut down, and probably for some reasons that the right group is going to be put together at a later time. I think this is just like a divine timing thing. But that's where this Chris Bledsoe thing led to is, so I buy the book. He has a near death experience that, or there's a part of that book that my near death experience has something to do with, and that like it was this awakening moment. But I connected with Chris on the heart level immediately. It was like I had no doubt this guy was telling the truth.
Dude, that's the thing. And like, totally. You talk about being an empath. Dude, here's the thing. Are you a crier? Tell me the truth. Are you a crier?
Yeah, bud.
Dude, here's
Yeah.
the thing. Here's the thing. I am Captain Moto and I can turn on a fire, but the heart wants to lead with compassion and empathy more than anything. And man, that comes out in tears, and it can be tears of joy, it can be tears of sadness. Chris Bledsoe's a crier, dude. And I think when you lead with the heart, you kind of live in that elevated emotional state, and it just the crying, dude, 100%. I was just gonna verify my total every impression. I got to spend a little bit of time with him after the Psi Games, like, because like I think I was a little bit of the Happy Gilmore before, but then after I won, like everyone wanted to talk to me, right? So I got to
Right.
spend some time with Chris Bledsoe. I still wanted to meet Ryan Bledsoe. I never got to meet him, but and I got to meet Emily and the whole family otherwise, but dude, there was nothing fake about that dude. You know, when you meet people like that, you know, and dude, have you seen Orbs? I mean, at one time or another, dude.
Hell yeah,
Because
bud.
here's the thing: it's all that heart connection. It's that love overlay. In you know, I don't know that I want to put the near death part of it for me as part of it, because I've always kind of seen some weird stuff. Um, I would think it got amplified probably after the near death
Sure.
experience,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know that I personally I want to make that connection with the near death experience to it. But what I will say is leading with the love, living in that elevated emotional state, like not letting emotions take over, but like I could cry at a moment. You show me something that's like it can be powerful. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
emotional. It could just be powerful. You know what I mean? And I
Right.
might cry. It could just hit a
Yeah, yeah,
chord
yeah.
with me, and I might cry. You know what I mean? And there'd be no
Right.
reason to it, dude.
Yeah.
I wept.
Well,
You know what I mean? And I've wept in freaking Cars, the latest car movie,
yeah, I know.
where he comes
Kids
and he
movies
has
are
the
the
crash.
worst. Right?
Dude,
Kids movies are
I
the
like
worst.
bawled.
I
You
know.
know what I
Well,
mean? But like you meet Chris Bledsoe, and you and it's hard for him not to get emotional, right? And when you meet these people that and dude, 100% binaural beats. I just want to say this out loud. 100% binaural beats makes a difference. You put on the binaural beats depending on what you're trying to accomplish. That also helps kind of focus it right along with that meditation and that focused intention. Getting your brain to sync up. I mean, that's really, I think, a crucial part of it is teaching your brain how to shut off all that stuff, but also to talk to itself, right? Most people don't ever teach their brain to communicate each side. I'm ambidextrous not only because of injury, but because I think my brain talks. Like I can totally write with both hands, you know, and you have more of those connections, and that hemisync definitely. I just want to throw that out there. Do hemisync. There's free versions of it. There's better versions than others. Gateway program from Monroe
yeah.
is always really good, but
The Expand app is
yeah, the
great.
Expand app. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, you combine all these things, dude, and you can't go back. You can't go back because you have these out of body experiences. You have these things where like you're doing the hemisync and you're just changed, you know, and that doesn't mean you don't that your values have changed, but it does mean that the way you look at things has changed. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
And I think talking about that framework that I explained, it pushes that framework out. Like you're having these new experiences and
Exactly.
talking, like speaking about crying, because for me, this ties in perfectly to this story is, I discover Chris Bledsoe's story. Um, like again, have this heart level experience thinking about him and reading the book, and he's just so sincere, and when you meet him, like he's he's right with you, nothing else matters, right?
100%.
And it's a good lesson of how to be with people,
Yeah.
right? I try to take that to heart when I'm with people. But then I discover Ryan's podcast, Bledsoe Said So. So I start binging that. Then I fall in love with that guy, right? He's awesome too. And it's like, I know who this guy is. And then I hear his story and I see all the shit he's had to deal with, all the negativity thrown on him. And I'm like, screw all of that. Like if I lived in Wilmington or, near him, we would have been homies because it's like I get that guy and that's what I want. So I'm literally in this room. Go back a little bit. 2009 I start having spontaneous out of body experience. Have no idea what that is. I just know like this weird things happen to me when I'm waking up. I'll leave it at that, but I'm sitting in this room. I had just got done watching one of Ryan's podcasts that really touched my heart, and I had just really found out about what my OB or my out of body experiences were. So I learned about the Monroe Institute, and it's like all these things are happening. I feel like I'm being called to go to Monroe. Yet, like you said, it's expensive when you have kids. It's hard to do these things, right? So I talked to my wife about it. I'm like, something is really calling me to want to go to the Monroe Institute. Also, I wanted to go to Azalea Fest, which was April of 2025, to meet the Bledsoes. And anyways, I made a video, like a 3-4 minute video to send to Ryan, just kind of like letting him know how I feel. Like I believe in you. You're doing, like, I wanted to encourage him and just send love and
Absolutely.
positivity his way. Um, but then I just started thinking, what I started looking deeply at, why do I want to send this? Like, am I looking for some sort of egoic return, like trying to get
Validation
to
or
know it?
yeah,
That,
totally.
yeah, yeah. And I was like, I don't, I want to send him nothing but positivity and love, to the point that even I know that sending this video is a good thing, but maybe it's not received that way. Maybe it's like, another thing on the pile, and then he feels like he has to respond. Like, I don't even want to give, I don't want anything negative. So I'm standing here, I'm in my basement right now, and I said this sincere prayer. Like, I'm literally crying as I'm just like, God, take whatever's in here and just give that to Ryan. Like, I don't need any validation from it. So that was just a moment that happened. I stopped crying, go back to go back to my night, right? Dude, within a month, Ryan puts out a thing about he's putting a Monroe retreat together for fans of Bledsoe Said So. And all you have to do is send in a video and he's going to pick, I don't know if it was like 20 people or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my God, like this is, it was almost too good to be true. And then I was going to be so disappointed if I didn't get picked for it. But I sent in the video, and he, like, within a day, he messaged me back. He's like, yeah,
You're in.
uh, you're in. And dude, it was so unbelievably life changing. And this speaks to like the stuff you're doing. I know we all have this, but sometimes it's our secular materialist society beats this out of us. So we have no belief in it. And once I started, I've had all sorts of things happen, but once I got that notice that I was going there, it was like all of a sudden, all this stuff, like precognitions, like crazy. I knew about people that I was going to meet at Monroe before I went there. And when I got there, dude, it was like it was drinking out of a fire hose. It was like remote viewing, precognition, all of it. So then I'm just like, this was all there. It's always been there for me. It just had to be unlocked somehow.
Exactly, man. And that's I'm so happy you said all that. I just have to say three things. You talk about your framework. I call it a color palette, right? There are people that, and I lovingly say this just based on their experience. They got the Crayola 9-pack, you know what I mean? And then you've got the people that, maybe have had a little bit more and they go up to the Crayola
Oh,
64. And then you have
Sure.
the
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
that just do it up and they're painting with Bob Ross's, acrylic, number
Happy
7
trees.
metallic, you know what I mean? And mixing it, making happy trees, you know what I mean? So it's that framework or that reference of what? So, dude, I'm telling you, you're a brother from another mother. You totally get it, right? And
Yeah.
uh I can't say anything about the Monroe Sioux because I haven't been there. I'm telling you, I'm jealous of it. I want to see that. I want to see the quartz rock, right? That's there. I
Yeah,
just want
dude.
to touch that thing,
It's
dude.
magic.
Dude, I just want to touch that thing.
It's it's the most magical place. And if you do have the opportunity to go, let me know because I want to go with you.
Dude,
It's because
100%.
there's something about being in a group when there's heart level connection with people. It's like a catalyst for deeper experience. It just sets it off.
Dude, when you have a whole bunch of like-minded people, everybody starts sending it. You know what I mean? And they feel
Yeah,
safe because they know they're
100%.
they're in that good environment, right? And uh
Right.
dude,
Yeah.
100%.
I
But
mean, I could go on and on about the experiences, but you know, to bring it into what you've been doing and what you've been learning, I got to do one remote viewing, and I absolutely nailed it. It was like I didn't know what the picture was, couldn't picture it, but I could feel it, and it was that all the feeling. So for me, I wrote down words. Some people draw pictures,
yep,
right? And
both
then when I
ways.
looked at the words, if I had guessed, I would have said it was Stonehenge. It actually wasn't. It was a rock bridge, but the words matched up exactly.
Dude, I'm just telling you, man. And so here's the thing, and once again, this is why I encourage people to just try it. I literally watch my videos. You can see the whole setup. We do it, and like you don't even have to be into a place where you're having two separate rooms and you have a target box. Just do a random AI. There's all these different apps. You can even just ask Google to give you a random AI generated version. I think even Siri and Alexa can do some of that stuff now. Like
Yeah,
just there's ways there's ways to practice all this that don't cost anything. And when you start tuning into this, when you start really recognizing that there's more there's synchronicities. The universe or God or just your surrounding, your body will start tapping into this stuff, and you can start recognizing that there's more. There's more than materialism, guys. I hate to say
for
it.
sure.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, I still want to live a nice life, and I think we all do. We want things that are nice for our families and friends, and that quality of life. But
Yep. Well,
you don't,
it's body, mind, soul, and those things are all distinct and they're all realities.
dude. Heart matches words matches actions.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you combine those things, your heart, you know, the three that dude, I'm telling you, you're a kindred spirit. We just say it in a different way.
Right.
It's that words matches words, heart matches words matches actions. Your body, your mind, and your soul are all, when you can get those things to match up, and you have one desired outcome where you're putting all that energy from all those different areas of your being, man, miracles can happen. And not to
Yeah.
say that they're going to happen
Yeah.
overnight. I wish I have been trying to win that lottery I'm 40 years old now. You know what I mean? I still haven't won a big
Right.
lottery yet, but I keep getting
Yeah.
the like little nudges that like you're doing the right thing, man. You're hitting it at the right time. You just This not meant to be yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And taking
Yeah.
the moment to, like you were talking about, you don't become a good captain without stormy weather, man. Taking a moment to realize that sometimes these things that are challenges and that just suck the life out of you are actually the things that are going to be what build you up and make you that
Yeah.
chiseled diamond out of that, piece of coal. You know what I mean? And
Right. Yeah.
and I just keeping that positive attitude, dude, and just remember it's that, it's that leading with love, dude. It's the
Yeah.
unconditional positive regard. And man, I
Well,
just
this like it it's a really cool moment for me right now because I I had in April 2005 I went to Azalea Fest. May 2005 I go to Monroe. Wild. then I was supposed to go to contact in the desert, but couldn't just because, again, life.
Life.
And then I was supposed to go to, I wanted to go to Psi Games, I should say, but life couldn't make it happen. But I was kind of watching through my friends who were there. So
Yeah.
that's when I first became aware of you, but just very superficially. Like I
Yeah.
knew,
Dude,
you won these
100%.
events, and Corey interviewed you, which was cool. But it wasn't really till her interview with you where I was like, I was like, oh, okay. Like, I feel like I know Ryan. I feel like I get his heart. Um, so
It's the connection,
we're,
man, and you can just tell.
yeah, you can. And then, so just another couple things, because this is really wild for me how this is all, like I said, converging. Um, I recorded an episode with Heather. That day had the most wild synchronicities. So we record, I use Riverside. It does a magic edit. So like the AI system edits part of the episode. It edits it to 1 hour, 11 minutes, 11 seconds.
Oh, that's
I'm
funny.
like, you got to be kidding me.
That's
So I take a
crazy.
screenshot, send it to her. She randomly is like, this morning I watched a podcast and I just feel like I have to. She knows I live in Canada. And we were talking about my parents who live on a lake. And the podcast was a woman who teaches mindsight, and she's from Canada and lives on a lake. Turns out it's Wendy Gallant. I don't know
Yeah.
if you know
Yeah, yeah.
Wendy.
Yep.
So
I don't know her
I had
personally, but I know who she is, yeah.
know of her. Yeah.
Yeah.
I I didn't know her. Again, I don't really my introduction to mindsight was Dahlia. So I'm aware, but not something I've practiced. Um, so, anyways, I search Wendy Gallant. On her website, a picture pops up, and there's a picture of a sailboat, and on the back of the sailboat it says Bayfield. And I'm up there like regularly. I'm like, there's no way
She's
she
right
lives
there.
like a couple minutes from my parents. Turns out, yes, she. I
That's
email
crazy.
her. One thing that was really crazy is that very morning before I recorded with Heather, my out of body experiences are spontaneous. And so now when they happen and I get to the vibratory state, I get like super excited. I used to get really scared, but now it's excitement. So I'm waking up from a dream. I feel like these vibrations coming on. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm going to go out. Right.
Yeah.
But what I realize is I'm in my parents' backyard overlooking the lake. And then I see a like 12-foot tall being overlooking the water. So, and then I get like nervous. When I see that, all of a sudden, and this is another thing I should, I guess, set up is I went to the Monroe Institute in May 2025. In November 2025, I did a second Monroe event with Ryan. So Ryan Bledsoe put on a private event that I got to go to. And what I realized is in the meditations, the things that I'm seeing are like, it looks like I'm looking down a paper towel tube, and at the end is an image. And if I look up or down, I can move around the image. And so I didn't pick this up on this at Monroe, but it's like this window. But anyways, go back to this dream that I'm having this day I record with Heather. And I see two windows with two images, and they come together and overlap. And I'm like, oh my God, they're so clear, but I can't see them well because they're overlap.
Dude.
Then my kids wake me up. So I get woken out of this dream by my kids, on with the day. And it's a busy day because I have to record with Heather. But the point being is that morning, I have this wild ass dream where I have mindsight windows on Lake Huron. And by the end of the day, I meet a woman who lives on Lake Huron and teaches mindsight. Like, is that
Dude, that's crazy. I mean, I wish so. I, I totally have precognition dreams. Mine are usually a little bit darker. I have one reoccurring that's just I don't even want to get into it. But it, I mean, here's what I'll put in there. You talk about things, everybody can feel it, man. Every single person that's an empath can feel we've been sitting on the verge of something big for like a year and a half, 2 years. And I feel like we're getting to the point that like there's gonna be some sort of a bubbling over of something, and I don't want to start calling out because I don't want to put it out into the universe, but something potentially, whether it's, I'll just say, like non-human intelligence with some sort of a disclosure, whether it's some sort of a world war, whether it's all of those things. And, because man, I'm not a, okay, I shouldn't say I'm not. I am totally a conspiracy dude. And, like you got like forest fires come, or not forest fires, but fires in places where smart cities are going to be showing up. You've got, you've got orbs or drones that are amorphous and all these different things showing up all over the world in my backyard, to all these different things, and you've got all this unsettled. There's no way, it's the same way you can't deny, like when you have like 3 remote viewings, that there's something going on, right? When we've been sitting on disclosure since 2027, 2017, really, is when they first started rolling it out. And they're all like, yeah, it's gonna be like 8 to 10 years, and then we'll finally get it. Well, now we're finally here, and like it's potentially looking like we're
Yeah.
on the cusp. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And I had that for me. 2018 is when I started having these premonitions of what I feel like is coming
Dude,
this
I've been
next year.
calling out to my family. I'm like, dude, since literally I have been saying, because I've been seeing stuff for a long time, and I've been able to call it out, and like my whole family's seen it. So they're all like, yeah, dude, he's right. He's got the precog. He's on it. But dude, just more
Yeah, yeah.
verification, right? Like, because dude, I will straight say it, and anybody that's in my family knows I haven't envisioned that something's going to come through my front door and blow my house, the front of my house apart. And maybe my job is to learn how to do this pre-K in some sort of a shield. I don't know. Do some sort of like
Mm.
superhuman, Dr. Xavier block it. I don't know, man. But, and then there's like been like, I mean, I don't know how much I want to get into those crazy stuff, but like you talk about like mall world, right? Or like these subconscious or unconscious places that like a lot of consciousnesses go and can like communicate, right? And so I have two reoccurring precognitions. I have a precognition that we are in like what's Orlando to us, like Orlando, or on some sort of a beach on some sort of a vacation, and all of a sudden that's like a negative invasion. I mean, of
Mm.
some sort. I don't know if it's military or alien, or there's just some sort of a negative invasion of something that I don't want to be a part of. And we're like, we're trying to get back to Colorado, and we're in a completely different state, and we're fish out of water, right? Me and my family. And that reoccurring has always happened. Like, and the other one is, man, this house that I'm in, the rhino pit, I've had this reoccurring version of something tries to come through my front door, and I'm ready for it, and that's all I'm going to say. I don't know if it's a person or a non-human. I don't know if it's what it is, but that precognition is hit. And man, every precognition I've had is hit. And I don't say that lightly. Dude, to the point that
That's
like
it.
there's a lesser, like less intense precognition. I told, like, we were getting ready to go to Lake Powell, not Lake Powell, there's a lake in Nebraska that's relatively close. I forget what it is. It's a big lake that's everyone goes to in Nebraska if you're in Colorado. And
Mm.
long story short, I told my dad, I'm like, you're gonna wreck your RV. Don't go to this gas station. And if you go to this gas station, because I know I'm telling you not to go, but if you go to this gas station, make sure you go to the pumps on this side because you're gonna wreck your RV.
No
100%. The
way.
very next thing he does is go pulls right into where he's not and he wrecks his RV. Right. And like the day my son was born, I'm like, Dad, when you cross the road, don't even go to this entrance, go to this entrance, because I keep having this dream that if you go to this entrance, you're going to get hit trying to see, your new grandson. Right. And he took my advice. He went the other way. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's real, right? And I think
Yeah.
I think the bottom line of what both of us are trying to say is it's not just you, it's not just me, it's not just Dahlia, it's not just any of these participants, it's not just the people that are getting publicized on TV, it's all of us, right? And,
Yeah. Yep.
and I do think
Yep.
there's things that help predispose you being more in tuned with it. I would be lying, man. When your consciousness gets knocked out of your body from a near death experience, I mean, I hate to say it like this, but you can't put toothpaste back in the the toothpaste
Yeah.
bottle or the tube,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when your consciousness goes back in, maybe it doesn't fit in as snug as it used to, and now you've got a little bit of I don't want to say leakage. That doesn't sound right, but
Yeah.
you have air holes, or you have these different. Maybe it's just not in as tight. You know what I mean? You got a little bit more wiggle
Right.
room. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I don't want to say, once again, I don't want to put a direct correlation between psi abilities and near death experiences, because I think, I mean, you can have autism kids that have not had near death experiences that are way more psychic than me. You know what I mean? And but I do think there are things that help predispose trauma. And I hate to be
Right.
like this. For me, being able to separate my consciousness from my body for pain management was a giant part of it, right? Like, I've told all these different stories about all these different injuries, but the bottom line is, when you're having to sit for hours on end because you're not anywhere near a hospital, you made good or bad choices, whatever you might say about it, but you're having to sit with pain. It's a whole lot easier to kind of disassociate your consciousness, astro project yourself for a minute, and just get yourself out of there, and let your body kind of do its own thing. And same thing with healing on the other side too, man. Like, if you can focus yourself on healing, like, and I've not really talked a
Hmm.
whole lot about that, but I 100% feel like I'm more of a Wolverine than most, right? Not because I'm full of metal, but because you can focus your intention on healing. And that's also why, like, I've not really had to have those painkillers. It's it's the not believing that you can't. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
The
And
mind is an amazing thing.
and it is, man. And not to say that you should be dumb and be like, well, if I jump off a bridge with
Sure.
no parachute, I'm gonna survive. Well, probably
Yeah.
not. I mean, there
Yeah.
is physics.
Right.
But to say that I can't increase my healing factor by 30% because in addition to doing what the doctor tells me to do, I'm going to sit there, and instead of taking the painkillers and zoning out and making less of myself, I'm going to let myself sit with that pain, and feel exactly where it is in my body, and recognize what that pain feels like, and then maybe focus that pain back into itself to heal itself. Focus
Hmm.
warmth, focus that energy that I can. There's all these other things, dude, like with my hands. I the hands are like a hot spot, right? So when I get injured, I put my hands on it, right? And not all the time, like if it's a bad injury, but like little things, you can relieve pain. It's in I mean, Chris Bledsoe talks about, like, he's got the healing factor, right? You got folks that have these extraordinary abilities, man, that, I mean, and once again, I'm not in any way trying to say Chris Bledsoe should go to Psi Games and try to heal something on command. Like, that's
Right.
not at all what I'm
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
say, but, like, a mom that has a kid under a car can lift up a car to get that baby out. You know what I mean? And whether you say it's adrenaline or this moment, we get told and we get trained that, like, 70% is 100%. That
Hmm.
we get told we only use half of our brain. If we use all of our brain, we'd have all these things. Well, hemi sync it up and
Yeah.
start putting some focus and tension. Man, easily you can unlock another 2 or 3% without even trying. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
being aware, leading with the love, man. You get it. You get it. I ramble once again, man, but it's just one more person, man, reaffirming to I hope all these viewers and listeners and everybody that this is gonna touch, man. Y'all, we all got it. And there's
We
this.
all got it. Yeah.
I got the Demogorgon right here. Will had that epiphany moment where he's like, I had all the answers the whole time. And maybe having a teacher or an institute or some sort of a person that's been there to help guide you, might make it a little bit easier of a travel. But dude, we all have it. We all have it in ourselves. We all have all of our answers, man. You talked about doing that stuff. A little bit of psychotherapy. I hate to tell everybody this. None of us are perfect. A little bit of psychotherapy slash, I mean, it's psychotherapy and psychic training are pretty close, because it's really about recognizing yourself, right? you don't want to put your nonsense on other people. So psychotherapy trains you on that side. You also have to know a lot of those same things to unlock this psychic abilities. You have to know yourself. You have to know what you're going to be coming with to kind of combat yourself, right? You're your own worst enemy sometimes when it comes to this stuff. You know what I mean? And you're just your blocks to think, well, this can't be me. I can't be the dude that wins the car. Dude, I'm the dude that wins the car because I thought I was gonna win the car, and not to say that, like, dude, I'm once again, I'm telling everybody, I play the lottery all the time and I win, but I don't win, right? Like, I've not won the lottery. So don't get me wrong. It's not like it'll happen when it's meant to happen. We all
Yeah.
have these abilities, and I just hope that everybody gets the point from both of us, man, that, like, please try these abilities. Help raise this consciousness. Help raise this awareness, and do it a smart way. But I mean, dude, meeting you from Canada, I have met so many people from around the world. I have this crazy experience with I shouldn't say some, this guy named Benedict from Germany, who I would have never met if I wouldn't have gotten into this community. And dude's amazing, you know what I mean?
Mm,
And so many people from Canada, dude. Canada seems to have a lot of psychic folks. I mean, just for real.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and then I didn't even know this. Gaia, the TV channel, is here in Boulder. I did not know that prior to
Oh,
getting into this community. Gaia, the station, is just like down the road from where I live. It's down Highway 7. And I live on Highway 7. So it's just like, and you meet these amazing people, dude, and you just can't go back. You can't go back
no.
once you've met.
No. Yeah. No, that's the thing. It's like my reason for
Do you
having this.
explain to somebody Dahlia? How do you explain to somebody
Right.
you like you and without putting it to where it's so untouchable, like a miracle, like, you know what I mean? Because then it's gonna take it out of frame. But, like, Dahlia's a real person. Dahlia's got a kid. They gotta eat. They do family stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, like,
These are natural abilities.
exactly. And when you just meet these people, you just can't deny it, right?
No. No. Some people try, but the thing I want to encourage people, and that's the reason for this podcast, is to have conversations about these things and to try and normalize some of these subjects. But it's like, just be just open a little bit, have a little flicker of faith, try to have a firsthand experience instead of getting all your information secondhand, and see what can happen. Because I mean, life is way more beautiful than some would have us believe.
Dude, you would never know if you don't try. You would have never met Bledsoe if you didn't send the message that you wasn't sure if you were sent. I would never have become the international psychic champion of the world if I wouldn't have sent that application and just gotten over myself. Because in the reality, dude, I'll kind of end it, or not end it, but at least get relatively close to closing it because we've been on for a moment. But but dude, it's all been amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, I could go for another hour if you want to, but you know what I mean. Like, the one thing I want to say is, man, don't don't leave a part of your life to regret. Don't,
Right.
because, man,
Yeah.
I've seen the death. I've seen what it looks like. I've experienced it. And, man, I don't, there's a lot of different versions of, and I've said this on other podcasts, but there's a lot of different versions of, like, when you die, is there a balance of your good versus evil? Is there this deeds versus this, and in across religions, there seems to be some sort of a, de, de- you know, de, deviation of going one way or the other, is what I'll say. Right. And I don't really think that's what it is. I think what it is this question. When you had the chance to live, when you had the chance to dance, did you dance? When you had the chance to experience it, did you experience it? You know what I mean? And when you had the chance to love and hate and feel sadness and live in those emotions and feel those with your heart, man, I have all this cool stuff. But when I die, none of this cool stuff goes with me. Just, and the reality is, dude, in 50 to 100 years, this stuff's probably going to be dust anyways. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And what I'm going to take with me are my soul's memories. my emotions, my moments of like I danced. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
And I think that in those last moments when those people put those smiles, maybe you do relive your whole life in that last moment. You live a whole lifetime, man. And I can, because man, there are people that die with smiles on their faces. And I hope right now that if I were to die, dude, I can tell you I would die with a smile on my face. I don't want to die, but I have, I live every day as if it's my last because I don't know. And, and man, there's not been a stone unturned. If there's been a goal, I've gone to achieve it. I think I've left a legacy of like prosper and gratitude and service. And I think I would smile, man. I think there's a lot of people that just don't smile and you can tell they're not excited for where they're going and or
Yeah.
what's to come next. You know what I mean? Maybe you don't go anywhere, but maybe what's to come next for them is they have to sit with the fact that they didn't dance and they have to sit with the fact that maybe they just sat in the corner on the bench, and that's fine. That's
Yeah.
what they chose to do. But you know, I, I would rather die with that smile because I knew, dude. I'm telling you, dude, I've had a bunch of concussions. I told you I got that speech thing, and I know I'm gonna have dementia. There's a protocol to it. Like after your first 4 concussions, you exponentially have a higher, you know, outcome of or likelihood of outcome having dementia. Dude, I know I'm gonna be the dementia old dirt bike dude. I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm the psychic guy that used to jump ramps, and they're gonna be like, what is this guy? There's no way, but you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
just I hope people just know, man, live life to the fullest. Don't hesitate because it's that's gonna be it's your own holdup, man. And the only person you have to prove anything to is yourself. You're
That's
not
right.
living. I love to meet people like you, but dude, y- I shouldn't say you're because I appreciate you now. So your influence does have a little bit, but an outside influence of like that shouldn't those people's projections onto you should not affect you because you and your heart when you die, if the question is did you live the fullest, man, I want to be able to answer yes I did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And did you give back?
Yeah.
Yes I did. Did you help people along the way? Yes I did. You know what I mean? And I think
Hmm.
I think if you can just sit with yourself, man, what a better way to live an eternity than to live these amazing moments because you had this amazing life or what a not great way to live a life to just repeat moments of what you maybe resonate on that maybe was just a small portion but you let it take up so much more space. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
and 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 I just hope that people know that, there's always tomorrow. There's always folks to help. There's never a reason to like get so in a negative space that you're, ever thinking about hurting yourself, doing anything like that. Cause like, a lot of us that wear our heart on our sleeves, man, you can get sucked in one way or the other real easy. I can verify
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just dude, there's lots of us out here. You got 2 of them right here, you know what I mean? And there's always going to be support and man, you're not alone if you're out there, dude. There's people in Germany, there's people in Canada, there's people in
That's right.
Colorado, there's Brazil, there's Australia. I mean, I can tell you where these people are, man. So I
Yep.
hope everyone, gets at least that and gets I encourage everyone to look up the podcast or the social media, man. I do it all. I at least train to the Psi Games. I try to keep it as legit as possible and do it up, folks. Do it up because
Yeah.
it's there, it's free, and all it's gonna do is teach you more about yourself, if for nothing else. Even if you don't think it's Psi, which I think it's Psi, but even if you don't
Hmm.
think it's that, man, it's just learning yourself for nothing else, or learning how to connect with a divinity, learning how to connect with the universe, learning how to connect with something, with the bigger picture. I guess would be the way to put that. You know what I mean? And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
trust me, it
Yeah.
talks back.
Well, I think that's a good spot to end it. I will say if there's a moral of the story here, it's go out and dance. Go out
Dance,
and
dude.
dance, baby.
Dude,
Go put on rhythm as a
dude, you
dancer.
got it.
Put on
You
Mr.
you nailed it.
Vain.
You nailed it. You nailed it. Dude, exclamation point, mic drop. Rhythm is a dancer. Boom. 100%, man.
Yeah, dude. This is awesome. Thanks so much for doing it.
Thank you, man. You're like my new favorite person, man. Just because
Awesome.
it's it's because and you meet all sorts of different folks along the way, right? And you just seem very grounded. You seem very real, and and man, it is
God,
when
you know what
you
I got to
can't,
tell you?
huh?
So this is another like synchronicity. I watched Corey's episode with you. It really touches me. I'm like, I sincerely feel like I know this guy's heart. Get home from work, go to the kitchen. Me and my wife are talking. I'm like, Corey just interviewed this guy, Ryan. I'm telling her about you in the episode and the Psi Games. You literally messaged me
It
at that minute.
it was that connection, dude. I don't even know because I was just because I was watching your videos and I was like, well, I want to support this guy because like the same moment you were thinking about doing the Bledsoe guy, like I mean I kind of know who you are. I've watched the videos, but I don't know who you are. But I'm just you're putting out the message that I like. You know what I mean? And so I'm just gonna say,
Yeah.
man, I like your stuff. You know what I mean? Like, dude, it's uh, honestly, man, and just like you said, you start catching these synchronicities, dude, and people start falling into your life, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I can just tell you, man, people, it just keep going because I wasn't part of any of this, and then I jumped in full fledged, man, and it's real. People come into your life at divine timing, man. Like, there's just no other reason. There's no other reason to it. Like the right people show up and it's like it's choreographed. And it's like, dude, maybe the synchronicities of like numbers isn't so much like an exact moment, right? Like it's not speaking to you like exactly. But maybe you're just catching the rhythm, dude. We're talking about dancing.
Yeah.
You can catch the rhythm and get that bounce to life, dude. Get that flow and so maybe the 111 could have all these different meanings to all these different people, 222, and there's all these tarot cards of all these different ways of interpreting. But the bottom line is you're catching the rhythm, you're catching the flow, you're catching you're catching it. You know what I mean? And you're sneaking up, you're getting into the rhythm, and man, and most people just don't. They just want to stay stagnant. They want to just do the 9 to 5 and watch football, and it's cool. Like you can't because maybe there are just folks that, man, the entire color palette is the 64 Crayola, man, and that's just the max of their color box. And and that's just that person, and then you have the folks that are like, I want to be Bob Ross, I want to be Van Gogh,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And it's just and but then you get into the more extraordinary, you get into the 1%, right? You get to the dudes that race Supercross, then just don't just buy a cruiser, you know what I mean? And
Right.
so I want to say, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate what you do. I appreciate you having me from the bottom of my heart, man.
Yeah. Anytime, bro.
I truly, before I let you go, man, I just want to say I know it's real late there because if it's late for me, it's real late there. Hey, man, I appreciate what you do, and I sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, man, I've had some like sponsor stuff and all this kind of stuff pre Psi Games, but post Psi Games, man, the people that I'm connecting with are sticking with it, man. And these are not people motivated by money. These are people motivated by their heart. You're motivated by your heart. And
Yeah.
and I just want to tell you from my heart, man, I appreciate you giving me this time, giving me this platform to speak, putting up with my rambling. But dude, I
Anytime.
just want to say I appreciate you, man.
All right. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you, man. Have a good night.
I don't know if you can hear this.
Dude, you get it. You get it. We're already friends. Dude, we're best friends. Did we just become best friends? Dude, you get
I
it. You
think you're
get it.